Okay, so welcome to another episode of the Zodiac Summoning Circle, the new name for the Zodiac Halo Dickheads podcast that we were doing previously. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a recap from all the events that we've done in 2024, and to do that, we've got a huge roundtable here. So we'll start at the bottom left and go sort of clockwise around. We have MistaFerrari here, one of our players from 2024 Worlds, helping us clutch up big on Lockout. We'll talk about that later. We've got Blake the Strafe, who's in the top left there. Longtime member, recently played an event for us as well. Got a good placement at an FFA for us in Florida, which is awesome. Next to him, Goatman Jaro. Does he need an introduction? The eternal raid boss of Halo 2. We've got LD50, who I think has played every single LAN ever. Who I guess also went to Vegas. We'll do a couple questions about that too. And we've got Repentency.
And for whatever reason,
Goatman's son.
I'm just
That'll be your title. For some reason, we keep playing with this guy. No, he's a demon on Halo 2 as well, and was awesome at the LAN that we played together in Seattle. So the big thing that
we got this badass named Reaching 8 down center too.
Yeah, and then we have me. I didn't even play at Worlds, and I got a bunch of points on Wikipedia. So really, I'm the one winning.
Doing the crew.
Yeah. So the first thing we should talk about, because we got everybody here, is Worlds 2024. So if you guys don't know, that's a big tournament that happens every year in Seattle, Washington, at the big convention center, surrounded by like a zombie horde of like crackheads and fent addicts that are all bent over. I was really shocked by that. I'm from Canada, you guys have to remember. But it's a massive tournament. Obviously, it focuses on Halo Infinite, and it has some Halo Infinite side events as well. But it's got classic Halo events. So we were involved with the Halo 2. We played the Halo 2 4v4, and we're just going to talk a little bit about that so you guys can get a feeling for the event. So, how was everyone's travel to Seattle? I think that should be the first question. Anything funny happen along the way?
I mean, not really. It was pretty straightforward, pretty standard travel. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just normal for everybody. You're already there, Goatman. And
quick hour and a half.
I don't even know what to say. I mean, I live here. I woke up. 30 minutes.
Woke up, got there. I saw that you were getting a couple hours in on MCC at the airport, Ferrari.
Oh, not yet. So basically what I have like a game case basically to where you can travel with an Xbox, and built into the game case you have a monitor. So, but for my flight, I was like maybe like an hour. I had like an hour just to like kill or whatever. I was getting some games on MCC. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi wasn't the best, but just getting some, just shooting
Sweet.
walls basically in the airport.
Sweet.
For the most part.
So what was everyone's impressions when we all met up? I know that obviously some of you guys have met before. Was there any weirdness picking me up from the airport or meeting Ferrari for the first time or anything?
I mean, you were easy to spot, dude. You were taller than everybody else. It's pretty easy figuring out where you were.
Okay, sweet. So I got like the periscope advantage. I will say that when I met Ferrari for the first time, it's like exactly what I imagined. Exactly. Like you were like, I'm like a soccer player, all this stuff. Like I think that maybe I'm like super perceptive of like how people talk like affects like their jaw structure or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this guy's got like a bassy voice. He's a soccer player, and I saw you were wearing like the compression top and stuff under the Seattle shirt. I was like, yeah, okay, that's the guy.
I mean, like going in, like, I mean, like nothing was like awkward with like me and these guys. Considering that I played all you guys last year, so I pretty much knew your guys' faces right off the bat. But I mean, like the only thing more so was the like height difference. I think I'm like a little bit shorter than Rip. I think by like an inch. But I mean, like going into the event, like it felt like I've like known you guys honestly for years. I mean, just once again, like going into like the event, I mean, me, Go, and Rep, like we were grinding the shit out of MCC maybe for like talking maybe like minimum 4 hours a day probably for like 3 weeks, so like we were grinding the fuck out of the game pretty heavy.
Yeah. I feel like we all had a good impression of each other. LD ended up staying with me. and we actually got along super well. I had no idea really what to expect. We kind of had to figure that one out like last minute.
Neither
Like,
did I.
yeah.
I'm like, who's this guy again?
Yeah. Where's LD going? And I remember like because we obviously talked before, and I was like, oh, this guy's like a Halo C like stoner kind of guy. Like we'll be fine. Everything ended up being fine. It would have been more interesting if we had like a giant fist fight or whatever. The funny thing is that I got like the smallest hotel room like humanly possible in
we made it work
in downtown Seattle, and we made it happen, which is pretty
Sometimes
funny.
you just gotta save money.
Yeah. Okay, so
that stayed with me. That was funny.
Yeah, I had to sleep on a yoga mat.
We all slept on the
There's no room. There's like no room. So Goat's like, here's this yoga mat and this other pad. Like you.
Yeah, my place isn't too big, so we made it work. But he's used to it.
Yeah, it was actually more comfy than I first thought. Believe it or not, it slept pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Cool, yeah. So as it was kind of alluded to earlier, yeah, we were all practicing online. So obviously this is the squad. We had Ferrari, Goatman, LD, and Rep. That was like our 4 players. And then I was the coach for the event as well. And in order to practice online, we'd have Discord like screen shares open. We'd be playing. I'd be trying to work on getting the timings figured out, trying to relay that to the players. All the players, like most of what we were working on was like setups, like how to get back into our setups, maintaining our comms, and just grinding out a bunch of games to get familiar with each other before the event. So the event day ends up rolling around. I was surprised. It was a day earlier than we expected, right? It wasn't even a guarantee there was going to be a Halo 2 event. There often is at Worlds, but it ended up being the day earlier than last year, right? So it was basically right off the plane, right to sleep, and then get to the convention center for the next day, which was sort of unexpected. I thought we'd have a little bit more time to settle in. So compared to last year, because you guys all went to Worlds last year, I wasn't at the event. Blake was also there playing for us last year. I should reiterate, so he'll have some input on this. What was the event like this year compared to last year?
I would say it was much larger. There was a lot more people in terms of who signed up.
Yeah.
The tournament was much larger. There's way more teams for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the level of competition was more fierce going into this year than it was last year too. So,
yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, this was my 3rd year going to Worlds. I've been at every Worlds since the launch of Infinite. So yeah, I mean, just coming to Worlds every single year in Seattle, exactly like Goat said, like the competition is just getting better and better, no matter what game that you're playing every single year. There's like a new kid, on the come up or the rise, and just, people are hungry, essentially, to pretty much be the top team, and to be the top players in the world. So yeah, I mean, coming into Worlds for the 3rd year, just yet alone, just coming in every single year, the competition is definitely getting harder and harder and harder for sure.
Right. One thing I want to bring up is that there's a sort of perception that Halo is like super dead. That obviously I've been big on pushing in the past. Which I mean, maybe it is outside of the convention, but dude, like for a LAN event, like Infinite had a big fucking crowd. Okay.
Yeah.
This is like a big convention center, and I know that PAX is bigger because they need to have space for board games and sales booths and stuff too. But the area that they had set up for the main stage was big, and when the finals were happening for Halo Infinite, everybody was in seats, man. Everybody was in seats.
Yeah.
Like every seat.
I also want to bring up a point on that is, I felt like we were the crowd favorite last year, and we were also the crowd favorite this year. And the reason why I say that is because I watched a lot of the other events, and I watched the Halo 3 finals. No one was there. It had no crowd. It was just dead. It was literally me and that standing there in like one chick watching the Halo 3 finals. Whereas when we played, we actually had everyone was like cheering. Everyone was crowding around. Yeah. Same thing when we had Blake there the year before. Everyone was like almost like low key like rooting for the underdog in a way. Like these guys coming up, Versus like I think we played against Neighbor last year. We played against Ferrari Neighbor, and who was it? Monopoly and North Snipe. And then this year we played a bunch of other like pro team, like who was it? Goober.
It was Goober and Holy Sniper and stuff. Like it
Holy
was a serious
Sniper.
team.
It was Goober, Cabe, Holy Sniper, and trying to think of the last guy.
They switched their fourth between Halo 3 and Halo 2 to pick up
Yeah.
Shell.
Invincible,
That's
right?
what it was. It was Shell.
Yeah,
Shield.
Shield, yeah.
Shield.
But
Yeah,
I could
Shield.
just tell we were a crowd favorite. I could tell like people want us to win, and like the saying goes, you can be wrong 1,000 times, you only gotta be right once.
Yeah.
And I just feel like all we gotta do is just keep cracking at it, and eventually we're gonna start getting those dubs.
Well, we should talk a little bit about the about how Halo 2 was. So a lot of the footage that you can have seen from the event, if you were watching it at home, would be like the Infinite stuff. So like the LVT stream and the main Halo streams would have been happening, based on the main stage, and based around the Infinite stuff. I know that some of the Infinite side events were streamed, like the community stage was, and the 2v2s and stuff were streamed.
Yep.
But the place that we were at, which was, so the players were playing in the same area, but you probably didn't see the area on the live stream. So the area that we were playing the side tournaments in was like a bunch of the new Xboxes arranged like, how you'd imagine at like an old CS LAN, or like a really old like Halo 2 LAN or whatever, where you'd have like 4 setups sort of like right next to each other, crowded into this like confined, fenced off space. And you'd have an admin with a microphone like shouting out like, okay, go to setup. There'd be big numbers above them. Okay, go to setup 1. Like, here's the 2 teams, right? Be there in 5 minutes, and they would do like the extra calls. And if you weren't there set up in 5 minutes, you'd get DQ'd and shit. So it was like, it was the feeling of sort of an old school LAN in the area that we were playing. Unfortunately, they couldn't figure out how to get the Halo 2 stream working, so we don't have a stream for that. You will eventually see some of our games on our channel. But the area that we were playing in was pretty cool, if a little bit cramped, especially because we were and a few other teams actually were using a coach standing behind the players, right? Not a lot of room to maneuver when you have like 6 inches between the back of your seat and like the row behind you. They're also sitting like back to back with you, right? So I remember when we were standing around, just like, you had to sign up for the team all at once. We had to confirm if like coaching and stuff was cool. And we started hearing like, are you guys the pro team that's here? So what did you guys think when you heard that? Like, did you know what people were referring to at that time?
I said, "Fuck yeah!"
Okay, yeah.
I just think it was more so because we were waiting. We were waiting in line for fucking. I don't even. We were waiting in line for like, probably like 6 to like 7 hours to like sign up.
Yeah.
Like, because like we wanted well, considering that there was only a certain amount of teams that could sign up, like we wanted to make sure that we were going to be the first team signed up, so that way we were obviously secured a spot, and there was going to be like no complications with like, oh, like you guys can't set up, so
yeah.
Remember, Goat, when we went that year and we were the first people in line to the fucking venue? We went through the back security escalators, got all the way up to the front, and they like kicked us off back down in front of the line.
Yeah,
I remember that.
There was also a lot of people that, there was a few people that actually started recognizing us. So there was people that were at this event this year that actually remembered us from last year.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I was hearing those comments as well. You guys, the pro team, or you? I remember you guys. We had that a few times while we were at the event.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were sort of like getting ourselves signed up. You had to sign up like all together, and you had to. There was only a limit of, I think, like 16 teams that could possibly show up. Right. So that's why we were like at the venue right when it opened, pretty much, or like within a little bit of when it opened. And we all like met up in that main hall kind of area near where the signups were, and then we would sort of like walk back and forth like to and from the sign-up station every hour or so, just to make sure that they weren't pulling any funny business, just to make sure that we would
even
get
worse
into the
the year
tournament.
before, because we weren't sure, and they didn't really have like a good system at that time. So there was a lot of teams that waited that never got to play on the first year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like we were like, it was like first comes first serve. We were like literally like in line.
Exactly.
Like at the beginning of the venue, we would like take turns and rotate people out and have people waiting in line, and they were like still on like the brackets for like another game. Like they were playing like Infinite or something, and we were like in line for Halo 2. We were in line super early for that. This year, even though it seemed like we were always checking in, this year was a lot more easier than the first year.
Yeah.
It was
First
definitely
year-
more organized this year for
Hell
sure.
yeah. Hell yeah.
Because I was gonna say,
Yeah, I think when
and
Dragonite. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, man.
I was gonna say when Dragonite first met us, like I shook his hand. I was like, "Hey, man, we're here for Halo 2, and we want to sign up. Like, you're going to see us like as the first sign up." So
Yeah.
sometimes for a lot of guys that are like new to this scene, like you got to go meet the TO as soon as you get to the venue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I was gonna say, because we talked about the previous Worlds event, and it sounded like it was kind of a shit show. This time it was like, it seemed really professional to me. You know, it wasn't, exactly what I would expect. But lands are always slightly different from each other. Like, they weren't taking the players' gamer tags for each of the teams on the challenge, but they were actually taking everyone's like actual name and like the team names, and they actually had like computers set up. It wasn't just somebody doing it on chart paper, which I think was I think I was expecting something much more disorganized. This time they really had everything figured out. Like, renting equipment was easy. Everything was pretty easy. So they've improved that for sure. We had Dragonite actually as well. We ran into him, so shout outs to him, right at the beginning of the event to talk about the event. It looked like they'd made improvements, at least from what I've been told. So I was actually pretty impressed, to be honest, especially for like a side tournament. So we didn't end up playing like right off the rip for the Halo 2 stuff, right? Because there was other side tournaments going on. They couldn't get like setups free to play like all 8 of the starting matches right at the beginning. So we were waiting around looking. And I know that we saw Wolfmane's team, and I think this is also the time that we ended up seeing who ended up being, one of the other like pro teams at the event. We ended up seeing Phase 2, which is what we were talking about earlier with Shiel and Holy Sniper and Goober. And that team was really pretty serious. So what did you guys think of, like, when you were walking around just looking at the general level of the teams this year before we started playing?
I mean, I came in expecting there to be at least one team that would be a problem. There's always a team that shows up, or a person or a few players that you have to look out for. But a lot of the people that were there, they play other Halo games, and they're really good at other Halo games. So I wasn't too familiar with those communities as strongly as other people. So I didn't really know what to expect going in there right off the rip when I was looking around. But I mean, anytime you show up to one of these events, you definitely have a few people you have to worry about, and you kind of learn as you're there who's the good players, who's the bad players, just by looking at how people are playing.
I felt quite the opposite. I felt like people were worried about us. I felt like kind of like word of mouth. People are like you guys said earlier, like, oh, are you guys the pro team? Are you guys the pro team? Are you guys the guys that are here to take it all? And I think we didn't really ask around about other people, but people were definitely asking around about us.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I heard
Yeah,
in the background, they're like, oh, these guys are going to be a problem. And the guys that ended up winning, they were talking about us
Yeah.
when, like, in the background, like,
They
nothing
were
bad, but
observing how
like,
you're playing.
they were kind of like, are these guys going to be a problem? Are these guys going to be this or that? So, like, I was like so in the zone during those events. I didn't even know. I don't want to fast forward too much, but when we were in the grand finals, I had no idea. We were, and you
I remember
you can
that.
tell that
I
story
remember.
later, reaching. But
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, no.
That was fucking funny. I was in the grand
We'll
finals, I
get
had
to
no
that, but
fucking
no,
idea.
like, Go Man, like, here's the thing, right? Like, meeting everybody and like everyone's like personalities and stuff, nothing was a surprise to me. Like, you guys all basically looked exactly like what I was expecting. Like, obviously we talked on video before, Go Man, so like I knew what you looked like.
Yeah.
I could imagine what Rep looked like. You know what I mean? LD looks exactly like what I thought LD. Ferrari, I could have spotted like before he even talked, right? Before he even like went for a shower or said, yeah. So basically, like I could have spotted any of you guys in the crowd, but like how you actually play in the game, like how like you sit at the computer and stuff, like that part was sort of a surprise to me. And like Goatman was like in the zone. You know what I mean? Like a fucking war could have been going on behind him. And like during the match, dude, like this guy is like downloaded. He's like like the Matrix or whatever. He's like just flat back. Like he's like his mind is only in the game, right?
I'm plugged in.
Yeah.
I'm locked
which
in.
which is
Into the Matrix.
yeah,
There could be like
is
machine guns
yeah.
going off in the background. The whole water sprinklers could be going off, and I'm like
Yeah.
in the fucking game.
But like
you know?
it's good, but it is like kind of freaky too. But we got over that
Yeah.
quickly. So I've got kind of like a funny story about our first round game, because the first team that we played was 117 WTD. I don't actually know if that stands for anything, but that's the name that was registered. They were actually okay. The guys all had like uniforms and stuff, and I was like, well, we're probably like the nerdiest team here, or like, you know, top
They had a coach.
top two. I was gonna say that. So I'm like standing there, like I've got all my shit hooked up. Like LD, his LAN experience was good. He showed me how to set up the Astros. So like for our later setups, now like we had two people, you know, making sure everything was like plugged in correct. So we're doing our setup. I've got my headset because they had like a fifth drop for the coach to like walk behind. I've had to pick like I have to stand like this where I like barely have room for like my notebook and stuff. You guys will see it in the videos. And so we're all sort of set up. I'm looking at the other team across from us setting up. They've all got fucking jerseys and they've got a coach. And I'm like, what the fuck did we just walk into? First round? But you know, you can show up with whatever you want, but once the game started, like I think everybody just got into the rhythm of things, right? So I feel like for me, it was a good feeling when like the game starts. You know, initially like the two teams are kind of like neck and neck with each other just because of how the scoreboard is, right? You can't get 50 kills instantly, so it's like, you know, 1-for-1, and now it's like 5-3, and you know now it's like 15-7, and it's like, oh, okay, we're pulling away, everything's good, like we're trusting the process, everything's good. We started to de-stress a little bit. Any thoughts on the first series from any of you guys?
I mean, go ahead, Rob. You can go first, bro.
Yeah, no, I was just saying. Usually your first round's kind of sketchy. It's always the sketchiest round because you go from that playing online experience to playing on LAN. You remember you're playing on LAN, so you have to get used to playing on an Xbox. A lot of people play on PCs. I play on PC. But I actually try to tone my computer settings to Xbox, so whenever I actually go to the LAN, it feels the same, such as setting the refresh rate to 120 and stuff like that. But you can tell you're playing on LAN. It definitely plays completely different. So it takes a good minute or two to slowly start warming up. So, you know, it's always pretty rough at first, but within like the first 2 minutes of actually playing a match, you warm up real fast.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is like it's kind of like boxing. There's not a whole lot that usually. I mean, you can get a one-hit knockout in boxing or whatever. It could be a one-rounder, but most of the time when you're dealing with like a professional level, everyone kind of fills each other out for like the first like 10 or 15 kills. You don't know like how someone's gonna play, and you're like, are they gonna be hyper aggressive? Are they gonna all push together? Are they gonna set up? Are they gonna not grab power weapons? So you kind of like got to fill out the other team on the first, I guess, quarter of the first game. So
yeah, exactly. And I mean, like going into like this event, you know, like that was like the first thing that like I told the boys, you know, it was more so just getting that first series done out of the way, because exactly like Rep said, you know, sometimes that first series, you know, can like throw like a curveball, you know, to where it's like you don't know who the fuck you're gonna play, you know what I mean? So it's like a lot of times with like first series, you know what I mean, like some people will get like, you know, the jitters, you know what I mean, nervousness, you know what I mean, only once again because like, you know, you're just trying to get through that first series, you know what I mean, essentially to advance. But yeah, I mean, like, to be honest with you, I mean, like, me and the boys talked about it multiple times online when we were grinding, and just to be completely honest with you, like, going into the first series, like, I wasn't even worried about who we played, honestly, because I flat out told the boys, I'm like, listen, I'm like, you guys are a bunch of dogs online, so like when we get to the fucking event, like, it's time to eat, you know what I mean? So like coming into the event, you know, and just all the way up to grand finals, like every single series, I was going in confident because of the squad that I had behind me, you know what I mean? So it was just like, it was more so, it made my life easier because it's just like I just gotta play my game, and you know, I let my team eat.
It's funny you say that because you brought up the jitters. A lot of people do, like, they get really nervous and they get the
A lot
jitters.
of people, yeah, hell yeah, dude.
I am surprisingly locked in on LAN compared to how I am online. Like, when I play online, you can ask even reaching when we play. I tilt, or I get upset, or I get frustrated because I kind of look at online as the practice for LAN. So
Exactly.
every little mistake I make, I'm super hard on myself. But the second I'm sitting in that seat, staring at my screen on LAN, I'm like locked in. I am fully focused on the game. There's nothing emotionally that gets to me. I don't let nothing bother me. It's always on to the next play, on to the next play.
Yeah, I gotta second that. Like, because obviously I wasn't at the last Worlds, right? So I have to go off what people told me, and then I have to go off what I'm seeing online. And it's like, Rep's like this sick player. He's like a lot of our firepower on a lot of these maps, right? He's kind of like, is this guy gonna be okay? Like, is he gonna need like fucking counseling during the rounds? You know what I mean? As soon as we got there, though, like one of the first series, I remember I actually walked over to you. I'm like, you're so good on LAN or something like that. We were like talking like right between like one of the games. I'm like, you're so locked in. You know what I mean? Like not distracted, no tilt, nothing. Like things are going badly in the game. You're like smiling. I'm like,
Yeah,
what is it? It's like a different person. Yeah, so focused. Yeah. And better too for it. So yeah, I was super impressed with that. So the next match that we ended up playing, just to skip forward, unless anyone's got any final thoughts about our first series against 117.
I mean, you know what? I actually screenshotted all of our stats for every game.
Yeah,
So-
I think I have I have all the stats leaded up
Okay.
until the whatever you call it, until the Warlock game.
Yeah.
The Warlock game. I don't
Well,
have the stats,
I was
but,
gonna
like, I know
say
that-
because if we're gonna talk about stats, there's a stat that I wanted to talk about for our second series.
Yeah.
I think it was our second series. Like our first series, I remember like funny moment that happened there. First game was Warlock flag, right? So game starts, we're starting to like pull away in kills or whatever. I see Goatman die. Obviously I can't like move sticks or whatever, so it's kind of like this like, whoa, what the fuck's going on moment. Goatman just shouts over the monitors, "Look at your flag, kid!" His death cam goes to, I think it was LD running the flag in for our first point, maybe like 30 seconds into the match, and I'm like, okay,
I don't even remember.
So then we're good. Second game, right? We're playing against below zero while they're like setting up or whatever. I think they I don't remember if they had a guy
What
on
game are you talking about? The first game we played?
first game.
Yeah, I didn't even die in the first game.
Oh yeah,
Maybe it was
yeah.
Rep that went down. Maybe I was looking at the wrong monitor in the
Yeah. I went 4 kills, 9 assists, and 0 deaths.
it was a quick match. Yeah.
Yeah, it was quick.
Yeah.
I mean, fucking
I remember me and
Looking
Goat were
here.
playing around each other really well. I was. Goat's
Rep
really
and
good at
Rari
staying
both got
alive.
10 kills apiece, died 1 and 3 times. Like,
Yeah.
like everybody.
Yeah, I might have been looking over. I think we might have changed
Just,
seating. I might have been looking at Rep or whatever. That's when I was like, "Whoa, what?" And then I saw like you'll see it when you see like the VODs or whatever. There's a death cam of a Spartan running the flag in within like a few seconds of the game beginning. I think we went to I think it was a Slayer for their.
and I
second
say,
match.
look at your flag, kid. That's funny.
Yeah. But
So game 2.
yeah, game 2 we played against a team called Below Zero. That also was like, this one wasn't super difficult. Like I'm imagining they had a relatively.
I'm looking at the stat line. It was a blowout.
Yeah, I was gonna say they must have had a pretty easy first round.
Series the second series that we played was like a complete blowout, and like to be completely honest with you guys, like I feel like all the way up to the grand finals, like we were smoking teams. Like we were ending series in a matter of like 15-20 minutes. Like that second series, like they had no shot.
We
I
were.
Fucking Rep dropped 12 kills, and he had more assists than he had kills. He
Yeah.
had 12 kills, 14 assists.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
one of their players
That's
in the second
firepower.
series on a Slayer match, I think he actually goosed
That's
actually.
Slayer.
So
We
like
had
we were
double gooses.
we were frying.
We double
Yeah.
goosed
Yeah.
the team.
Yeah.
The thing is,
we were
the
frying.
thing is, I don't think people were expecting the level of setup and slaying power we had on the setups that we practiced for.
Definitely.
So when people were going in there, they thought they were just gonna run and gun like they normally do online, or like try to break setups with random plays. But we had the strategy so locked down that the one team that we played on lockout, which I'm not sure if it was the second team we played or the third. It was the second team we played.
Yeah.
When we played
It
them
was
on
below
lockout,
zero, yeah.
we had them completely locked down. They couldn't move on the map off spawn. They kept spawning over and over
Well-
in blue room.
It showed HCS. We played lockout ball, and they got 0 seconds.
Yeah.
And LD held the ball, and he got all the time.
Yeah.
He got all the time.
No, we got the ball
Literally
off the rip. Like I remember when the game started, everyone was like, okay, like actually like let's do our protocols correctly. Don't just immediately get on the ball, get a bunch of kills, and then we're gonna put the ball in library or whatever. Did it exactly. The ball goes in library, it never leaves. LD just stood there. LD just like locked down the ball. Like he dropped it like a couple times to like get a kill or whatever here and there, picked it back up. Another 30 seconds at a time, pretty much. It was crazy.
Crazy.
It was pretty much a triple goose. If you look at
it was a triple goose on their team. Only one guy got 2 kills. Everyone else got 0 kills.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Triple goose.
Yeah.
Yep.
The looks across the
time and goosing. They got a quad goose in time and they got a triple goose in kills.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was
game.
really bad.
Bro, that's a gaggle.
Yeah.
That's a gaggle of geese guys. Geese.
After we played those guys too, they really, really were rooting for us. So like they were like shell shocked, absolutely shell shocked at what happened.
Yeah.
No, I think that they learned like what like super sweaty Halo 2 could be like in that moment.
Yeah.
They weren't like completely bad or whatever either. I just remember like looking over the monitors when that game started. Like within a few seconds, there was a lot of like kind of looks, where people are like, spawning elbow instantly dead, stuck bottom blue for the whole game, stuff like that. Or like trying to it's trying to get something going on, instantly dead. So the next game that we ended up playing was against Orchid Point Gaming, who I guess are sort of like friends of the team or whatever. We were talking to them a lot. That was Lazy and his guys. He was, I guess, known on like the West Coast scene. I talked to him a lot after these matches. I don't think he liked me very much during the series, but we talked a lot after. He's a cool guy. This series, I think we had a Sank game there that was actually like it was a competitive game. They were a pretty decent team. I think they had like some jerseys and stuff. No coach or anything. Nothing too crazy. But the way that the format would work is that the admin would hand you like what maps you're going to be playing in what order, and then you would roll off or flip a coin or whatever to see who gets host first. So I remember we played our first match. I think we win it. I think it was like we played Sank first. It was kind of close. We ended up closing that one out though. Our second match, we're supposed to have host, and they like didn't pass us back host. And I remember having an argument with like Lazy like over the monitors, making sure that we got our host back because I think it was going to go to like Lockout Slayer or something like that. I could have the map slightly wrong, but we actually wanted to get like a correct map, because if you guys don't know, Halo 2 MCC on LAN, your long distance shooting is a little bit more consistent if you've got host. And like when I'm looking at my team, like the long distance BRing especially, I'm looking at my team, it's like I've got Goatman and I've got Rep, and like those are two like big like BR anchors, and I can give host to one of them, and now I can lay down shots like across the map with like perfect consistency, pretty much like a super strong long range BR that feels like a short range BR. Your short range shooting's not quite as good, I don't think, on MCC, but the long distance is much better. So we ended up negotiating that situation pretty well. Those guys were super cool too. The Orchid Point guys are very chill dudes, and it was like for me it was like kind of just like a boilerplate semifinal. I would call out timings. We got control on all the maps. Everything was good. They just shot a little bit harder. Do you guys have any thoughts on that series?
I mean, just it pretty much goes back to like what I said. I mean, just like going in to the whole entire tournament and just every series that we played. I mean, like we were frying, and I mean, like even in like grand finals we were frying. Against phase 2, which we'll get to. But yeah, I mean, like I feel like we didn't actually get tested until we got to grand finals. Like every single game, like we pretty much had locked down. I mean, like once again, exactly like you said. In the third series that we played, like or shall I say, every series that we advanced, obviously the teams got like slightly better, but like no one really tested us until we got to the grand finals and we played phase 2. Like almost every single game leading up into the grand finals was like almost a blow out of the water. Or if not, like like pretty much staked like every game.
Yeah, because because we were still holding setups very well and still we were really good at spawn cycling during those matches that I didn't feel like there was much pushback until we got to the last team.
Okay, so I guess we'll talk about the what was the main event. So for a little bit of preamble, I think that it was already kind of like alluded to, but I'll give a little bit of context. The event was like the venue was supposed to close at, I don't remember if it was like 9 or 10 or something like that, right? Tournaments always go late. Anyone who's like a TO or has attended LAN tournaments, especially for fighting game shit, it always goes like 4 hours over, right? So
Always.
it's got to be like 11 o'clock, right? Everyone's gone except for us. We got phase 2, and we have like a gaggle of fans standing around, right, that are
It was
getting
a
ready,
pretty decent crowd.
getting ready for us to play this final match. And shoutouts to I think Dragon Knight was still there, and we had another admin who was actually our admin for the first game, like a cool Asian dude. He was a great admin. Well, I was talking to him even on like the second day and stuff. So shoutouts to him. I didn't get his gamer tag or his name or anything, but you know who you are. Thank you. You were very, very cool, very good admin for us. Not because he gave us preferential treatment or whatever, but like, you know, he let us talk between matches, and like he made sure that everything was going as intended. I'm not trying to say that we bribed him or something, but yeah, we're getting set up, and the phase 2 guys look probably the most normal out of anyone that we've played so far. You know what I mean? Like no uniforms, no coach.
Exactly what you said. Like going to like grand finals, you know, like they look like a pretty normal team. The only person that I recognized was pretty much Goober. And for anyone that doesn't know who Goober is, Goober's he was a pro back in Halo 5, I believe. And when Infinite came out on the launch, I think that he was pro for like 2 or 3 events for the first year of Infinite. But yeah, I mean, Goober is just, the kid is an absolute monster. Once again, like I said, for anyone who doesn't know who he is, he's been in every single Infinite FFA Grand Final since the game has come out. So like he goes to every single Infinite event. He like only plays FFA, and he's been in every single Grand Finals. Like, and every Grand Final, like he places in that top 4. Like I think that there was only like 1 Grand Final where he made top 16 in the FFA, but I mean for the most part, I mean his record is like, since Infinite's come out, there's been like maybe 15, 16 Infinite events, and he's been in every single fucking Grand Final, bro. Like always top 4 in the FFA. So like,
I'm pretty sure that he's also done FFAs beyond Infinite too. He's been around for quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
He's been around.
Yeah, he won the FFA at that event too. I don't know if you already said that, but yeah, he went on to win it the next day after we played him.
Yeah, you know, so it's just like going into grand finals, you know, it's like, you know, like the moment that I saw Goober, like we were watching him previous leading up into grand finals, you know what I mean? And like once again, you know, it's like he's not really like a Halo 2 player, but the one conversation that I have with everyone is like, if you can play Infinite at a high level, you know what I mean? Like you can pretty much somewhat play any Halo at high level, yet alone, you know, like you can shoot your BR, you know, reasonably good, shall I say? You know what I mean?
The thing is, a guy like that, when people that are really good at FFA, they have incredibly high slaying power,
exactly,
and they have incredibly high awareness. They're very aggressive, so they're never staying in one spot for too long. They're very good at anchoring positions when they have to, because in FFA you want to hold the best position for yourself to get as much slaying done as possible. And they have just immense awareness. They know exactly where players are moving on the map. So playing against a guy like Goober, even if he doesn't play Halo 2 consistently, consecutively, you're playing against a guy that's a world champion at FFA and one of the best FFA players of all time. And you're combining that with a team of players that play classic Halo, like Cabe, Holy Sniper. These guys are some of the top players on Halo 3, and Halo 3 transfers over very well into Halo 2. So you're talking a team of pretty much semi-pro, if not, I will consider professional players that we're playing against. It wasn't an amateur team. I wouldn't even consider it a semi-pro team. It was a fully fledged pro team. These guys that we were playing have immense time in Halo.
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, so our first map starts. It's Sanctuary, which was a map that we had some issues with. You know, it even in like practice, I'm not saying it was like a weak map for us, but it certainly was not a strong map, right? I don't think we really had any weak maps when you look how we performed against all the teams, right? But against a team that could really push us to the limit, Sank was going to be, you know, a potential point of failure, and it ended up being. We had some issues with like control. Obviously, you know, this isn't like, you know, proper like team strategy talk going into the next tournament, but is there anything that you guys just want to like talk about to give people a feeling for that? Like, you know, no flame, no like deep tactics or whatever, but
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot that I observed. Ring 2 and Ring 3, especially Ring 3. When you just having guys up top there that they're anchoring shots that have the cover, but also have the support of their other 3 teammates, it's disastrous because it doesn't allow you to push upwards on the map. It just keeps you trapped.
Exactly.
And the problem that we had is we were playing objective, so not only were we fighting like very aggressive players, but we're also fighting the clock, because every time you die on objective, it's like a 10-second respawn, which just allows them to continue to cycle and to continue to cycle. So it was really difficult on Sanctuary to push them back. Now, we did eventually manage to break them back a fair bit. We actually did manage to get on their side once or twice, but the amount of like stress and pressure that you felt without getting that Ring 3, Ring 2 control, you definitely felt it.
Yep. Yeah, and to kind of fall back on Rep, I mean, like, going into grand finals, like, every single game that we played against Phase 2 pretty much went the distance to, like, a full 15 minutes. So, like, Sanctuary was
every game was all the way to the end. Every game was a nail biter.
Yep.
You know, and we duked it out all the way. It was against the ropes, and it was all the way down to the bell rang every single game.
Yep.
Yeah. And like going into that first game, you know, it's just like the moment that I saw Goober, like, you know, before the game started, you know, once again, shout out to the admin, because, you know, I was kind of like rambling on for like a solid like 30 seconds, you know what I mean? And just, I flat out told the boys, you know, I'm like, listen, I'm like, going into this matchup, like, they know that we're a good team, you know what I mean? They know what we're capable of, and they're gonna come out the gate extremely aggressive to try and throw us off, and that's exactly what happened. To fall back on Rip once again, where we basically took the L on that map is just Ring 3. I had the chance to look at my POV the other day, that I had recorded, but yeah, I mean, like, they just locked down P3. I mean, I'm sorry, Ring 3, not P3. They just locked down Ring 3 so much better than us. I mean, to be honest with you, like, that game, we really didn't have that much map control, and just with Sank, exactly like you said, like, Sank wasn't really a strong map for us. Like, we knew how to play it good, you know, like, we knew, like, what we had to do, you know what I mean? But, yeah, I mean, like, that's definitely where we fell short more so, was just not being able to get Ring 3 control, and just exactly like Rep said, you know, like, when you're playing against a team that knows how to play Ring 3, like, off spawn, you're just getting rained on with shots, bro, you know, like, no matter where you spawn. So it was definitely definitely a rough game for us, but we'll talk about going into game 2 because we shook it off.
Yeah. Well, I want to say one thing about Sanctuary and why it's always seemed like kind of like it plays so much different than any other map. Is it seems like an open map, but that can like kind of throw you off because lines of sight. So basically what I mean is, like, if you're playing lockout, you can shoot from one side of the map to help to the other side of the map to help out a teammate. If you're playing midship, you can shoot from one side of the map to the other. If you're playing fucking pretty much anything, Warlock, I mean, you name it. Yeah. But any kind of MLG map, you can shoot from one side of the map to the other from the center of the map. But Sanctuary is very unique because Sanctuary is pretty much the only map that the center of the map is blocked by a giant in construction. And so there's no lines of sight. And so it kind of makes you feel like there's lines of sight because you can see the sides of the map and you can see the opposite side of the map from the sides. But really, that giant construct really stopped us as a team from crossfiring and helping each other out. And that's really our biggest beef with that map, is there's really no lines of sight unless you push up on the map.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember being up in their side, and I'm not going to try to do no flame or nothing, but as a team, you got to remember when playing, especially objective, and you're only forced to spawn on your half of the map, that the 50-yard line now becomes home base.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? And now you have your lines of sight. And that was, I think, a big disconnect for us, was keep reminding ourselves that home base is at
50.
ring, not at home, not at our base.
And we had to play that aggressively. That's our problem. We were so used to anchoring and not playing aggressively that we were not playing aggressively to push up to get that control. We were still in that mentality of anchor.
No, we're in that mentality of set up, right? Like Slayer. But you can't play objective the way you play Slayer. You know, and so that's my 2 cents on that.
Yep.
So, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
You know?
So we, I believe that the next map ended up being Midship Ball, which is not.
No, I'm sorry. Game 2 was actually Lockout Slayer.
Was it? Okay.
Lockout Slayer.
Yeah, Lockout Slayer. Okay.
Lockout Slayer was game 2. Game 3 was Midship Ball. Game
guess
4
what?
Was Warlock Flag.
We won that.
Yeah. So Lockout Slayer. Then we'll talk about Lockout Slayer. I think that was the most interesting game, at least from my perspective. Or maybe the Warlock was. Obviously, we lost, but the Lockout Slayer. That was a really interesting series because we began the game, you know, trading blows. We ended up in a situation where we were out of control for a while. We got in control, so we had control of like the BR tower side, and the score started to equilibrate at that point. Like they had, I think, at one point almost 40 points. We'll talk about the specifics of the plays a little bit more when I give you guys the chance to speak. But so we now have like library and BR when it was close to like 40 to 30, like a big score discrepancy. And then Ferrari, points out that they're out of control. They don't have, lots of good access to ammo. And I'll let you guys talk about that game a little bit from here.
So once again, I had the chance to just look over that game and the gameplay that my cousin recorded for me. And basically how the game started off, we were playing our game, and exactly like Reach was saying, we were kind of going back and forth until we got up to that like 20 mark, and then they started to pull away. And at one point, I want to say we were down anywhere from like 8 to like 10 kills, and we got a spawn basically on Snipe Tower, which we weren't. I don't want to say we weren't prepared for, but that's not our normal setup. You know what I mean? So like we weren't really prepared to be put in that situation. But we pretty much anchored Snipe Tower. We got our picks, and there's one point, which I still got to send you the video. There's one point where just like literally I see my squad. I see all three of them. I see Rep, LD, and Goat. My squad just completely push up. We take over BR Tower, and then like literally from there, like we did not give up BR Tower. Like we locked down BR Tower till the very end, and we actually wound up winning the game, 50 to 48. But I mean, for the most part, like literally, it was neck and neck. The one thing I kept on telling the boys as we started coming back and we regained map control essentially was just play our game more so and play at our pace, right? Because the one thing that they were trying to do was even though they were down, maybe like 2-3 kills, it's like they were playing that role basically to like come on, come on, push us, push us. We essentially want to catch you guys off guard to break your setup, But yeah, I mean, like we just locked down the fucking map and just more so once again, I was telling the boys also, just like staying calm and staying composed, because especially in a Slayer game, especially like when it's like down to like the wire, number one, you got to worry about the clock, right? Because like that was one of the things that they had to do, it started coming down to where basically the clock was running out, and I felt with the boys, I'm like, listen, I'm like, they're gonna have to push us, like we're up by 3 kills, like eventually they're gonna wind up playing aggressive, and like they're gonna have to push us, right? So I mean, just everything worked in our favor. Massive shout out to LD50, because
those crazy nades.
Yeah, man, those crazy nades.
No,
man,
the final
kill.
He throws this grenade out of so somebody somehow got like back BR3 like on the walkway.
Yeah,
LD
yeah.
throws a grenade like at the ramp out library, and it like it's like wanted. It like curves and hits this guy like right next to his head hitbox when he was half health.
It was,
and he gets dropped,
I was
and
like,
we won by like 2
big
kills
door,
because
and
of
I, like,
it.
shoved
Yeah,
it
Library
perfectly
big door?
back and like
nah,
angled
yeah.
up the ramp.
Like
yeah.
impossible. Yeah.
I gotta see that star lineup, man.
That was a serious crazy nade, and like to be honest with you, I feel like if he didn't get that stick, we possibly might have lost, because what happened was
No, it wasn't a stick. It was a frag. I'm pretty
game.
sure. Like
It was a frag.
it detonated like in the guy's
There were
hitbox when he had
several
one
plays.
shot on him. He
There-
died instantly.
There
It
were
was
several
crazy.
plays
it
that
was
other
Yeah, I
crazy.
was gonna
also
say,
did.
big thing. The final sniper of the game, we managed to secure. So if you guys want to talk about
Oh, yeah.
that,
Yep.
I will say this too. They had set up BR3 in library for a little bit, and that's a very annoying place to get control back. And a lot of these guys don't play Halo 2 as deeply, and they don't know about a lot of the tricks that you can do. They were being very aggressive on BR3, and they were doing a very good job at it. And I don't know how much Goatman and everybody else were like analyzing that. The only thing that I could think of at that time for us to get control back, to kind of push back to give them pressure, because they were applying so much pressure on us at that time, is I actually did the spot on top of the door frame, like the door frame on top of like S1 to S2. You can get on
Yeah,
top of the door and push up into it. I was using that head glitch to actually put enough shots on them to keep them pushed back off of BR3. That actually scared them because they couldn't figure out where they were getting shot by.
Yeah,
And that actually
which is
also-
really good for MLG.
That also helped us push back and actually get control back. That was a major play. And the snipe play, also, I can let somebody else talk about that. That was a really major changing factor of that game. I can let Goatman talk about that.
Yeah, go
You know, a lot of that game is a blank to me, so if I did anything cool, you guys let me know. You guys watched the VOD. I don't know. Was I sniping that game?
So you were
I don't
sniping that
remember.
game. There was actually one. There's actually one
Didn't
point
I make
where.
a play?
yes, yeah,
Didn't
yeah.
I make a play?
So-
If I remember.
Yeah, so what happened
thought
is
so.
off the spawn. What happens is I was trying to let you
Because
guys.
we were
you guys
down
do it.
by a lot.
We
Yeah, I
we
remember
were
this.
down. This,
I
this
remember
is
that.
when, this is when we
We were
just
down by like
we,
8
we,
on
we
one
just
side.
got control of BR Tower back. So at the point where we're
So-
still down. You know, he's got to be like 6 kills, 8 kills, maybe 10 kills, something like that, right?
I remember this.
Ferrari's talking. We're kind of like holding our positions so that like he can talk. We can like get back set up. I'm trying to say like, okay, they dropped the sniper at this time, so it's gonna I can't tell you the exact second it's gonna be up, but it's gonna be like whatever it was in the next 40 seconds or whatever, right? So we're continuously like looking at it, and eventually Rep just like picks a timing and starts sneaking out top middle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
no,
ran
yeah.
bottom mid. I went I went from.
You might
Yeah,
have gone bottom
I
mid and
went-
done the jump up or something.
I did.
That's
Yeah.
right.
No,
I remember you
not
did
even.
some really
I
fucking
went-
weird play to get that snipe.
I
Like
made-
you went
I
away
made
that they were never
They
gonna
were not
look.
expecting me at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
I was holding BR1 most of the game.
Yeah.
And I wasn't moving from BR1. So in their head they're thinking this guy, his feet are planted. He's not moving. We don't even gotta worry about this guy BR1. He's scared to move. When we started timing that sniper, the only play I could think to myself is we gotta get that snipe, because if we
Yeah.
don't get that snipe, the game's over.
Yeah.
So I literally walked from BR1 bottom mid. They weren't even paying attention. They didn't see me at all. They were so distracted by library and BR3. I walked the whole way across the map, cleared them out, grabbed the sniper, and ran it into library and
Yeah,
dropped
yeah.
it for
I
goat,
was gonna say
and I went back to
yeah,
BR1.
yeah. I was gonna say
Like,
but by the point
It was like
where I saw you doing it, you were
perfect
already
play.
you were already at like S Tower or whatever. You picked it up though, and I remember seeing you like sneak back. I actually saw it off like Goatman's screen. I think you sneak back into library from like
Yeah,
top
yeah.
middle or whatever. And I was like, holy shit, this is so big, right? Because not only are we gonna have the sniper to maybe get a few kills, but the important thing is that they have S Tower, which like there's not a lot of ammo there. There's some like, you know what I mean? There's no resources there, right? Except for the sniper. When the sniper comes up, they've just been denied the only resource of their position, right? And I was like, holy shit, we're actually like we got this now, right? It was a huge play. He, I think, drops it to Goatman.
That was, I think, honestly
Yeah.
the game.
That was
changing
the
play.
game.
When
Yeah,
you
that was
when
the
you
game.
say you
Sure
cleared
that-
them out, did you go through S1 and through ramp, or did you do the shortcut
No,
up
I
to
went-
S2, or
No,
what'd you do?
Straight up the ramp. Straight up the
Straight
ramp.
up the ramp.
Straight up the ramp.
Straight up the
Straight
ramp.
up the ramp.
Well, no,
Back to the front door.
the thing is,
No,
the thing
no.
is that
But I
they
created so much
all
room
were
behind them.
yeah.
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 They all were doing like weird shit, right? Like because the player you don't see the player names, right? In the HCS events, it's just numbers.
Yeah. No.
So Ferrari is jumping around on like BR3, and he's also going down to like the BR ramp, right? Open ramp.
Yeah.
So what's happening is that they can't tell if it's Rep or Ferrari. They're like, oh, there's still guys on top of the BR tower, so they're all like looking the other way or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And we secured the sniper.
Yeah, I think he tosses me the sniper, and I'm pretty sure I took a few heads.
Yeah. We got a couple kills out of it. The biggest part is like we got the kills out of it too, but they didn't get the final sniper of the game when they were starting to like get destroyed, like get like crushed by the weight of having no weapons where they were spawning. And we managed to take their only resource from their position, which was huge. That locked in the game for sure.
100%. Because I remember at one point, when we started like getting closer, we're maybe up like 3 or 4 kills. I'm like, do we have any more snipe ammo? And he was like, nah, and then we're out. But like, I mean, at that point,
but knowing me, I didn't drop it, did I?
Yeah, no, man. Like,
like I will keep an empty sniper in my back pocket for fucking 10 minutes straight. I don't care.
Something in my front pocket for you.
Holding open ramp in BR1 on that map is probably the hardest position to hold. Just because it's you're the first guy that everybody's going to target to come up, because to get up, there's only 2 options to get over there. It's bottom mid or it's top mid. If you're top mid, you're more out in the open, you're more easily to get shot. So most people, they focus up on bottom mid, and the angles that you can get shot from at BR1 are going to be blue door into bottom mid, elbow, and bottom mid itself. So you actually can get shot at from 3 places. And when you're playing guys that are aggressive, I mean, you're gonna die a lot. But the good thing is, I'm very good at being ratty as much as I can and buying time. I kept them weak enough, and I bought enough time that when they finally cleared me out, we already had comms and eyes on where they were. So when they tried to regain control, we actually pushed them back. So the lockout was definitely our strongest map, and honestly, I think they were pretty shocked that we took a game from them, because I think they were trying to do an undefeated series, and it did not happen. It did not happen.
No, I remember looking over like after we won that event, not event, but when we won that match, and just the look of shock on their face that they're like, damn, it was that day that a god could found out that he could bleed, right? Like, they were kind of like, holy shit, like we could actually lose this, you know. And when that realization hit, when it was the series was just 1-1, and all of a sudden it became a reality that was anybody's fucking series, like that's when everybody kind of scooted their fucking chair up,
Exactly.
I think what happened after that had to do just a lot with, we got hit with a lot of objective. And we focused a lot on Slayer, and once again, it left a lot of opportunity for us to still work on our game.
So we ended up going from that map right to midi ball, which was our least practiced mode. Like I think we played it once or something.
By far.
And
to be completely honest with you, like going into that event, we did not play one game of midi ball. We
didn't think it was gonna be on the fucking thing.
No,
that's the exact thing.
Yeah. The information was weird. Like
literally, that was the exact thing. It's just like we were more so going off of like what we knew prior to like last year, and just like the game types that like we played, and like all of us were like, oh well, like none of us played.
There was some weird shit. I will say, because I saw like all the maps we were gonna play. We never made it to them because we would just 2-0 all the series before the grand finals. Dude, we could have ended up finishing one of the series on like Warlock Bomb and stuff. Like there were some weird ass game modes. We just never ran into any until the final.
There's definitely HCS game modes, not MLG game.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yep. And like literally, like that's like the other thing too. Like we played all the way up to grand finals. We played maybe like 9 games. We did not get Beaver Creek once. If we would have went the distance, and we would have brought it to a game 5.
Shit out of Beaver Creek.
That was our strongest map by far.
Well, the final one was Beaver Creek Slayer. That would have been the final map.
Yep.
Yeah, but essentially more so to like get back on track with the midship ball game. It's just like going into that game, once again, it's just like, before the game started, I looked over at Goat and I looked over at Rep, and I'm like, yo, this is like the game where like, we're like, I'm like really gonna like need you guys to slay, because it's like we knew how to play midship and we were very good, like we were extremely strong at midship Slayer, you know what I mean? But like going from Slayer compared to OBJ, especially with ball, like you got to play it out like completely different, you know what I mean? And to kind of fall back on what Rep said, it's like we were very locked in, to like playing our game, anchoring the setup, you know what I mean? So, from having an understanding of like, okay, like we know how to play midship Slayer and Fry compared to, going over to ball now, like it was completely different, and just like we didn't have, essentially like we knew what we had to do, you know what I mean? But exactly like everyone said, it's like we had no practice whatsoever on that map leading up to the event, so it was like more of just like
another thing too is like the objective on objective, or especially on that, your respawn time is so long that we couldn't come back to help our teammates because they just had us in a big ass spawn cycle, a 10-second spawn cycle where it's like, fuck, man, someone's constantly dead, and if you get one guy dead and I'm holding P2, I'm a gun down, and all they gotta do is be like, this guy's a problem over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's send 2-3 guys over there. Half his team is like on spawn cycle anyways, and it would get me jumped. Then I would be dead, and it would fucking just rotate.
We weren't used to playing that level of aggressiveness or play style. I've played a lot of matchmaking, and I've played a lot of custom games against varieties of players. One thing that I don't see that threw me off as a player that's played so many hours of Halo is the holding hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a Halo 3. That's a Halo 3 style.
It's not even Halo 3. They literally were doing the 2014 MCC, like early MCC Wolfpack, where because the connection was so bad in early MCC, you just all stand directly next to each other, no cross mapping, and just shoot, right? Because if people jumped, you couldn't hit them, right? That was the whole idea. So you have to stand next to each other to have as much firepower as possible. They were doing that if they were in control, out of control, any position, exactly 3 men, top, middle, like it was crazy.
What I realized though is that works on objective with slow spawns. It doesn't work with fast spawns.
No.
You get
that was the big difference. You can't hold hands on Slayer because it doesn't, the spawn cycle won't allow it, But when you have like somebody dead forever, you can Wolfpack because there's no cross mapping because one of the guys is dead anyway. So there's like 1 or 2 guys alive.
Yeah.
And when they go to shoot,
spawn across.
There's four VRs. Yeah. Everybody shoots you once, you're dead. It's like fuck. What are you gonna do? Yeah. So that was like I think our biggest learning, opportunity from the whole event was that.
Yeah.
And see that's and that's what I like about the fact that it's on MCC, right? I'm not gonna go too far into this subject, but what it does is it allows like many different players from many different Halo games, and it pulls them all into one, and you actually become better as a player by playing people that play Halo Infinite, by playing people that play Halo 5, by playing people that play Halo 3, because they all have a different play style to them. And what it does is it trains you to adapt to other play styles and other players that play different Halo games. And it increases the skill gaps across the board and over all the different teams that play very differently. So you never know what you're walking into, and that's the thing when we came into this event, we came into it mentally thinking just Halo 2, players that play Halo 2, and we forgot that a lot of people play these other Halo games very differently. So when we played this team, we learn a lot, and we've been applying the things that we learned, like one objective games, using that timer to our advantage, holding hands, wolf packing, going 3, even if we have to 4 at a time, it doesn't matter, as long as it means that we're gaining control and switching the spawn cycle. So there was a lot during that match that we learned, as much as it was a shell shock. I'm happy that I got to experience that because it only helps us become better players across the board.
But yeah, then we got to the game of the event, for sure. At least for the classic tournaments, the Warlock game, when we were already like way over for time and stuff, and everybody was there. That was
the craziest.
The Warlock flag.
Yeah, that was hands down the craziest game that we even played throughout the whole entire event. Like every game that we played, was like great games besides that oddball game, but like that game was just like that was the craziest game that we played out of every game that we played, leading up to grand finals, obviously, and in the finals.
There
as
was
well.
no short of Oscar award-winning Saving Private Ryan moments during that game.
No, they highlighted that.
Grenades going off left and right, and you're like diving for the fucking flag at the last second,
There was a
saving it.
major play. It was. I don't know if you guys saw the Vegas Land
Yeah.
Final Instinct clip where they
Oh, yeah.
saved the flag
Yeah,
last
Roy
second.
pulls
Yeah.
it
We
like
had a
like
moment-
2 seconds.
We
yeah.
had a moment exactly like that
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
tournament. Exactly,
That's the
down to
beautiful
like
thing about Halo
down
2.
to like 3 seconds, stopping
Yeah.
the flag to keep
Yeah.
the game going into overtime. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
It-
it came down.
Yeah.
It was like neck and neck the entire time. I mean, honestly, I have to. There was a couple mistakes that we made, and it's a matter of learning. Warlock is a very it's a very confusing map at times. It's very
Yeah.
chaotic. That's the word I'm
Yeah.
looking for. It's very
Yeah.
chaotic. So it's kind of hard to get a reading on what's going on a lot of the time.
Exactly.
But you have to control opposite health packs. You have to, and you got to have somebody protecting and also anchoring your buddy that's protecting or sitting at the health pack, because sitting at that health pack, you have a lot of cover, and you also can deal a lot of damage at other players that are going through the teleporters that are trying to sneak across the map. So we kept getting in this battle where they would get into our opposite health pack. We would be throwing bodies at this person to try to get him off. They would clear us out. It would give them opportunities to pull flag, but then the same thing would happen. We'd throw so many bodies on that health pack, we'd get on their health pack,
Yeah.
we'd sit there
Yeah.
for a little bit, and they shoot us back. And it was this
Yeah.
trade back and forth, and it came down really to just very small mistakes, very small positions that we
Literally.
had. A couple plays where maybe one of us just got killed by something stupid.
Oh yeah.
That's all it took.
Also, when a game's that close, because we went like all the time, all the flags, right? When a game's
Yeah,
that close,
yeah.
man, like we had flags decided by like random grenade bounces off the geometry that weren't aimed, like just normal shit, right? Missed melees,
Very
like
chaotic.
yeah, normal shit. But it is like that was like the most exciting game that I've
Oh,
ever been
no,
part
yeah.
of, and
No,
that had
yeah.
to be the most exciting game at any of the side tournaments.
I mean, the whole crowd, when
Yeah.
it came down to the last 3 seconds, because it straight up came down to the last 3 seconds. The amount of screaming and cheer, like the amount of like people grabbing their head,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Hyped.
freaking out,
Yeah.
like not knowing
It
what
was
was gonna
hype.
happen.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
No, we had like a gaggle of people still there, like because I'm standing like there's like people right behind me talking, and you literally could hear people be like yelling like Zodiac, or like grabbing their heads and screaming, like falling back over into like chairs and stuff. And when the game finally ended, when we were like packing up in this empty dark convention center where everyone else has gone home except for us, I can't remember who it was, but there were a couple players walking away, like behind us, like walking like to the right behind us, and I'm like unplugging my headset and stuff, and they said something like, "So why wasn't that on the main stage?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because a lot of the first days, Infinite games and stuff weren't terribly exciting, right? Because that's when you're separating all the chaff. So yeah, I thought that was pretty.
There was also somebody like working there that was like, I watched the event, and this was by far more
Yeah.
entertaining than anything I saw on the main stage all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was definitely a trade of blows, man. It was one for the record books, man. But one for the history books.
Like that game was literally like that's a game that like you can actually like genuinely say like down to the wire. Like the score was 4-4. There was like maybe like 15 seconds left on the clock, and like they wound up getting like that last flag off of like some like stupidity, because I remember that they were running the flag. There was like 15 seconds left on the clock. They had the flag at their lift. 51 ended up dying, and he's like, "Yeah, the one guy at their lift," and actually wound up getting the pick. And then like it just so happens that like they got a lucky spawn. Someone spawned literally directly
Right on the
in their flag, like literally like perfect spawn, couldn't be better. Like on their flag, the flag's right there in front of them. Just grabbed it, and it capped it. But yeah, I mean like going into Warlock, I mean like we talked about it. We knew that Warlock was gonna kind of be a curveball of a map for us. You know what I mean? It's just it's just once again kind of like how like Rep said, just like they anchored basically the side bases way better than us. I mean, like to be honest with you, one of the mistakes that I made more so is just like this is like me like being like very, 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 very honest with the player. You know, it's just like I was getting shit on that map because I was falling into that trap that they were playing. You know, like they were constantly playing yellow brick and like just I'm like guys, I'm like we gotta get him off yellow brick, I gotta get him off yellow brick, and like that was like my like main focus for like 3 minutes. You know, to where it's just like it got to the point where it's like 50 was like yo like we gotta push the other brick yo because it's just like they're like constantly anchoring that spot. You know, so it's just like I'd spawn and just like constantly feeding them kills. You know,
They
to where
want
it's
you.
just
They
like
want you to take that bait. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's the bait.
That's
They
the
want you to
exact
take
thing.
the bait.
And there was a
that's the
few
exact
times I
thing,
took,
you know,
there's a few times I took that brick, but after I took the brick, they would just
instantly.
Lobbing
Oh,
nades.
Instantly
Every
on it.
starting
Right.
nade for like an entire
Instantly
respawn
on it.
cycle get thrown there. Yeah.
Instantly on it.
yeah.
It's all a
Instantly
learning
on it.
experience. Like I said, when they get that brick control, like you said, Ferrari, you have to go other brick, opposite brick,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're not gonna. They're wanting you to go yellow brick. So if you do the
Yeah.
opposite, you have a higher chance. And honestly, you have better angles on that
Canceling
opposite
them
brick.
out.
You can't nade
Because
out that
you'll
yellow
have
brick
just as much
off spot.
control. You'll have just as much control holding green brick on
Yeah.
their base. It cancels out their power, basically.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, nah, yeah. And I mean, like the last and final thing that like I'm gonna say. So yeah, it's like two things, right? So first things first, considering that we're not playing on like actual official MLG settings, right? If we if they would have never capped that fifth and final flag, we would have had to do a complete reset all the way back to 15 minutes. So in the actual MLG settings with the time, right? You have a 30-minute timer, you know, and essentially if it goes into overtime, you know, it'll just keep on running the clock. With MCC and the settings that we're playing on more so is that basically if the clock runs out and it's a tie game, you got to do a complete full reset, you know? So like in a way, like if it would have happened, you know, maybe things would have went, you know, differently, but essentially game 5 would have been Beaver Creek Slayer, and if we would have got that Slayer, no doubt in my mind, we would have locked that shit down, and that would have been basically a win in the bag, you know. But I think most importantly, exactly like Rep said, you know, exactly like Goat said, you know, it's like the one thing that I've learned in my whole career playing Halo, you know, is like I look at every event as learning experience, you know, and more so, like as much as it sucks, you know, to lose and to come in second, you know, it's also a great learning experience because now you can learn on what to improve as an individual, as a team, you know, essentially moving forward, you know, for other events as well as next year. And then most importantly, I mean, shout out to like pretty much all the teams that we played as well as Phase 2 because like pretty much not even almost, pretty much every team and like every player like came up to us, gave us our respect, and they're like, yo, like you guys gave us like a hell of a run for our money, you know, like, you guys are like a really solid team, you know, like props, you know what I mean? So you know, it's not like we were like playing teams and they're like, oh, get shit on so and so, you know, it's like people gave us our respect, you know, even though that we lost, you know. So
yeah, people were wanting us to win more than anything. We had
100%.
definitely the biggest fan. We had the biggest crowd. We were
Yeah.
definitely the underdogs there, for sure.
One thing that I think is funny, so like that was Warlock, right? We ended up not securing it, and Goatman just like looks up at me at the end of the match, and he just looks like out of it or whatever because it's finally over, right? His consciousness is being like downloaded back into his body after being in the Xbox for the last couple hours.
yeah,
And he's like, "What the fuck, man? We just got fourth." And like so I'm also behind him, like I'm like packing my shit up, right? Because I just lost. I'm like, well, fuck, we didn't win, right? I flew all the way out here, we didn't fucking win. What the hell's this, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking down at him. He's like, well, fuck, and I'm like, well, he's taking it a lot harder than I am. And I'm
I had
like,
to, like, snap every-
what's
I
the problem?
remember-
What's the problem, man? He goes, we got fourth. I'm like, dude, that was the grand finals, dude. We just got second. And he's like, oh. And suddenly I'm like, well, it's not too bad then, is it?
Yeah.
Like, it was super funny.
Yeah, I had to
Still
like
got a
I had
paycheck.
to, like,
Without a paycheck, still podiums, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
we
think a lot of people realize, like, there's quite a bit of people who are pros, but only a handful of people win consistently. And you
Yeah,
can't beat
yeah, oh,
yourself
yeah.
up too bad about podiuming. You can't beat yourself up too bad about getting top 3. As long as you're top 3, as long as you're getting money, as long as you're up in that top, or as long as you're in the grand finals,
Yeah.
you're still taken just as serious
I
as anybody.
completely agree with
Technically,
that.
we were winners.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rory.
Yeah, not yet, because to kind of fall back on exactly like what Goat said, you know, it's like I played in so many tournaments, right? You know, that like to consistently stay at that high of a level, to where like each tournament that you're going in, you're coming in top 4. That is very hard to do, in no matter what game you play, whether it's Call of Duty, whether it's Halo, whether it's a PC game, to consistently be a top player every single event takes so much more work than a lot of people do, and
Yeah,
one
I mean,
conversation.
go look up your favorite Halo player. You're gonna see a lot of top 16s, a lot of top 32s, a lot of top 8s. And I mean, back in the day, if you had a top 8, you were still respected at top 8.
Top 8
and
was
we're over here crying about 2nd and 3rd place. I'm like, man, it's like
exactly.
That's not that bad,
Correct myself. Top 16 was pro. Let me correct myself.
Top 16 was pro.
Another thing to keep in mind is whenever you're winning money in a championship, you're actually announced in the winners bracket. You're in the winners bracket. You are seen as a winner. You might not be the championship team, but you're a winning team. Yeah. And the thing is, we got posted on HCS. We got posted on their Twitter. We got posted on their Instagram. We
got a paycheck the other day. You guys all got paid. I know you did because I got paid.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Even Blake got paid. Well, you guys want to
we'll get to that in just a second.
I got paid immediately. It was great.
We'll get to that in just a second.
Not yet.
Way better operation.
Not yet. All right, Richie, go ahead. Run the show.
Yeah. So.
And then
I saw that.
Keep going, Rory. Keep going.
And then and then just like last and like final thing, that just like I'm gonna like throw out, because like there's a lot of people, on the online world that are like, hypocrites, you know what I mean? Super, talk a lot of shit and everything, like at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck. Sorry about my language. I don't give a fuck, like how good you are online. I don't care about what you do online. I don't care, how good of a player you are. Like it all comes down to events. Like me, Rep and Go, we were grinding the shit out of MCC for 3 weeks straight, and there was so many people that were talking shit about us. Like, oh, you guys are gonna get wrecked. Oh, this and that. Oh, blah 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 blah. Oh, I can't wait to show up. Like, so many people talk shit like, oh, I can't wait to show up and wreck you guys, and they don't show up. Like at the end of the day, you can talk as much shit as you want on the online world. It does not matter. What matters is showing up and actually playing in person at the tournament. It does not matter how good of a player you are online, what you've done online, if you've won tournaments online. It does not matter. What matters is when you're actually at your station and you are literally playing against the player 4 feet in front of you. Like, what a lot of people don't understand in the online world is being in a LAN atmosphere compared to being in the comfort of your home is a mass difference, right? Because playing in the comfort of your home,
it's like the difference between singing in the shower and singing on a stage.
Exactly. Exactly.
And not only that, but like you spend a lot of time, you spend a lot of resources. It takes effort, it takes energy to show up physically in a location. To organize everything. And there's always that chance where you could go up against the best team round 1 and place last. And a lot of players, they don't having that thought, knowing that they could show up, spend all this time, resources, talking all this shit online, and then just getting last place.
LBR1.
It scares a lot of people off. But you have to overcome that fear. You have to overcome that worry. You have to show up. You have to put in your best, and that's how you become a championship team. A championship team is a team that is consistently grinding, not giving up, not being scared, and placing high, showing that they're competent, going to finals. And like Goat said, that's not easy. Most competitive players, some of your best players in the world, they don't have a lot of first places, and most competitive careers, believe it or not, are top 3, not first. Sometimes 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Top 8, like even Blake said. I mean, you're considered some of the best if you're consistently top 8 in a lot of these tournaments. And this isn't just like your local LAN. This is HCS. This is the biggest league for Halo.
It's the biggest league for Halo, and every single year, like Worlds is the championship. It's like you're going to the championship. So like throughout the year, throughout the season, like there's like 4 or 5 other tournaments. You know what I mean? Which are pretty much majors. But Seattle is the championship. That essentially
all the best will be there. They may miss a major here or there, but everyone is there in Seattle.
Exactly. And more so, most importantly, like we can say that like we gave the fans and the people that were watching, exactly what we wanted. You know what I mean? It's like exactly like we said, like that grand final that we played, like you could say in esports that was a fire ass grand final. You know what I mean? You know, like it's not like we played phase two and got smoked and like blown out of the water. Like no, like every single game was like a 15-minute long game down to the clock. You know?
That team actually ended up playing on the Halo 3 event. They won the Halo 3 event too.
And they wanted to be in complexity. They wanted to be in complexity,
and
which is a pro team.
Yeah,
Complexity is a pro team. They have
Royal too.
Yeah, like complexity. Like the only two teams to make them drop games was Zodiac and Complexity.
Exactly.
Nobody else. They didn't drop a single game in Halo 3 or Halo 2 except to Cold Zodiac and Complexity. So,
yep.
You know,
says a lot.
What it is.
Yep. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Cool. So that was the Halo 2 event. And that was pretty much it for like, you know, what Zodiac did. But that wasn't it for what all of our players did. So Ferrari, what we got you here? I saw that you were playing you know, what was it, Infinite 1v1s? What was that?
So actually not even. I think you might have got confused. Going into Seattle, I'm sorry. Going into Seattle, I was pretty much locked in for the FFA. Prior to the first year, for Infinite Worlds, I wound up seating 19th out of like 500 players that were like playing, you know, FFA throughout the season. So going into Worlds, you know, it's like that's like the FFA, you know, that like you want to be locked in for and everything, you know. But the moment that Rep pretty much wound up getting in touch with me back in September, he's like, "Yo, dude," he's like, "You know, in World so and so, you know, this and that, you know, me and Gold are a team of two, you know, we're looking for another player." Like the moment that like, you know, I pretty much like hopped on board with them, like I was locked in, and like it was like just full focused Halo 2. So like I didn't want to play in like anything else. I wanted to play in the FFA, no other side tournament. It was like just Halo 2 for me. You know, like it kind of goes back to like coulda, woulda, shoulda. You know what I mean? Because prior going into Worlds, essentially, I had reached out to Rep back in maybe like June or like whatever, you know. And I thought I told them, you know, I'm like, listen, dude, you know, like Worlds is gonna be coming up in a couple months, so and so, you know, like I'm gonna try and lock in a team as soon as possible. You know what I mean? So you know, like if there's a spot that's like open, you know what I mean? You know, I would definitely be interested in teaming with you guys because you guys gave us a run for our money last year. When I wound up playing against them, but
and that team that you had last year, that was like a one and done team, anyways. So it was like, why the fuck not?
Yeah,
Me and Goat, the idea behind picking you up is we wanted people that essentially were guaranteed to go. Yeah. We didn't want this thing where we had what we thought was a team that was going to show up and then last second cancel, and then we have nobody. So it was, you know.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, like, if there was like one thing that I could like do differently, it would probably be more so just to like, I wish that like I kind of like would have like hopped on board a little bit like more early on with like Rep and Goat, you know, and started just like, you know, practicing, locking in, you know, pretty much like early summer. Where things kind of got messed up a little bit was like we didn't have any information until literally the week before the event. So like September came and like we were pretty much grinding the shit out of MCC to like not even know if they were even gonna have Halo 2. You know, it's like we knew that it was gonna be most likely, but like nothing was like announced for like side tournaments. You know what I mean? So it's like we were kind of in a pickle to where it's like we were like almost like practicing for like no point. You know, to where it's like, are they gonna have Halo 2? Are they gonna announce it? Are they not gonna announce it? So like they literally announced that they were gonna play the Halo 2 side tournament like 4 days before the event. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you know, like once again, prior, shoulda, coulda, woulda, you know what I mean? You know, prior to knowing months in advance, like, okay, it's 100% gonna happen, you know what I mean? Like, me, Rep, and Goat, you know, and like whoever else, we could have been practicing for months upon end, you know? I mean, phase two, I mean, all three of them, Shelly, Holy Sniper, like, all three of them have been playing for probably years upon end, you know what I mean? I mean, like, those are Halo 3 kids. Those are Halo 3 kids. They are very very well known in the Halo 3 community, and just like they play in tournaments together. You know what I mean? So like they had way more of a chemistry built than we had. You know what I mean? And then yeah, and then like as far as like picking up like LD, like LD was grinding with us, but like we really didn't pick up LD maybe until like the like second week when we started establishing things more so, you know what I mean? But just like it was more so just like once again, shoulda coulda woulda, you know. It's just like we were like so crunched on time, you know, to like try and have the like best team going into Worlds, you know what I mean? That it's just like
I mean,
you know,
we had the best results with
100%.
what little time we had to prepare and with what we had.
100%.
We
Exactly.
literally squeezed
Exactly.
as much juice as
Yeah,
out of what
yeah,
we had. We should be
exactly.
proud of that.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
And another thing, you played in the 1v1 showdown, right? Didn't you actually get to play in that 1v1 showdown or no?
So I didn't get a chance to play in it. I wound up testing it out, but I didn't get a chance to play in it, unfortunately.
Oh,
I
okay.
see.
Okay.
I got you.
Yeah, I thought that
Right.
you ended up doing that. But
Oh no, I'm sorry. Community stage. That's what I played on.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So
Yeah, that's what I was asking about. I wasn't sure what stage it was on.
I got completely confused. Like, sorry about like rambling on, but essentially every single year when you go to Worlds, they have a community stage. The community stage is basically live streamed, and basically they will have hosts come up in the community, you know, that are pretty much content creators, forgers, you know, so and so, players, semi-pros, just essentially people in the community, you know what I mean, that are based around Halo. And the one thing they do every single year is they will pick people out of the crowd to basically go up on the community main stage and basically play a game, and they'll stream it live on like Twitch, YouTube, so and so. So I actually wound up getting picked this year. So it was pretty fun, to just like get up on stage, you know, and just essentially play Infinite, you know, and have a good time, really.
Cool.
And I know it was just for fun, but what did you actually end up placing in that? There's a fair bit of people and decent people at there too, actually, that were playing in that.
So basically what they would do is they would call people up on the community stage for about like an hour. So realistically there was maybe like four games played on the stage. It wasn't like a tournament or anything. It was more so just like you get called up, you would play, and then if your team won, you would get like an ice unicorn skin.
Okay.
In the
That's pretty cool.
in Infinite. But yeah, like it was more so something, just like hop on stage, you know.
Yeah,
it was more of a
something to do.
community
Yeah,
thing
that's
than it
good.
was a tournament.
It's really cool, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And then LD,
Yeah.
you played like every single side event.
Monster.
LD was a beast.
Yeah.
LD was locked in, dude.
Yeah,
Like
Infinite
this guy was
free
playing
for
like
all,
every single Halo.
2v2,
Is that a straight hat, by the way?
4v4
Oh,
It is
hell
straight
yeah.
hat.
There we
That's
go.
sick.
from 2023 Worlds.
Yeah, so
Little
you
space
said
station
that you played. I know that you did the Infinite FFA, and then you did the you're doing Halo 5 2v2 with one of your locals, right?
Yeah, just last minute team.
Yeah.
NorCal Milkmen.
Yeah, what'd you end up placing for that one? I know that I entered it on Wikipedia. I forget though.
I know we got like second rounded. Like
Okay, yeah.
the first time we played it, we blew out of the water. The second team, they were definitely like practice. Still
Okay.
So
Okay.
You got like 5th through 8th. You were in the 5th through 8th bracket.
That was for Halo 3. That not
Oh,
for
for Halo-
not for
Oh,
H5,
I
I
think
don't
for
think.
Halo
yeah,
5.
for Halo 3.
Okay, maybe I could be
Yeah,
wrong. I'm
yeah.
pretty
It's
sure
probably
maybe.
like
I-
it's probably
'cause-
later on Halo 5.
That's right, because it's
I haven't
2v2,
played
so it's more
It's
people.
like-
Yeah, so it was more
yeah,
teams. It was like a
double
32 team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they got like
Yeah.
16th or whatever. Okay. Or whatever it was. I don't know how many teams signed up. Maybe it was like 24 and you got like 18th or whatever, however the math works out. But and then we ended up making a team with a bunch of the NorCal Halo guys as locals. So it was myself, we had LD, and we had two of his locals who were Blades and Stu. What's Stu's actual gamer tag? Just Stu?
Stewball 32.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
and we
Dark Blades.
yeah, we ended up entering as Stu in the crew, and we played a couple matches in the Halo 3
It was a
tournament.
It was a good last minute squad.
Yeah.
We had fun.
Yeah, it was okay. We got
Yeah.
5th.
We put up a little bit of
Yeah.
a fight.
We could have played Complexity if we won one more round. Certainly some communication issues on Construct. Yeah.
We had, some people not
I remember you talking about
100% familiar with the callouts,
Yeah.
but
No, it was fun.
it was all in
It was
good
good.
fun.
Yeah. That was good. We had a couple good games. I think we actually ended up playing the same team that we played first is called Zodiac. Me and you ended up playing in the Halo 3 tournament, and we knocked them out again. In the first round again.
That's crazy. Oh,
So I think that's what happened, or at least it had one of the same players on it. I could this is off the top of my head, so I could be mistaken that it was the exact same team name. But one of the players, and I'm sorry, got first rounded by us 2 times on 2 back-to-back days.
Funny.
So it's really unfortunate for him. But yeah, so we were doing some side tournament stuff, and then so Worlds is over. We all depart Seattle. I had a really weird experience. I don't think I've said it on the podcast before. I'm sure people figured it out because like the shirts that I was wearing and like tattoos and stuff. But I was in the military for a long time, and I only just got out like a few days ago. So I've been focusing on like moving back to where I'm from in Ontario. I was living in New Brunswick before. I know I said that for sure on the podcast. So I wasn't able to, go to Vegas or do anything like that. I've just been, I basically like got home from Seattle and immediately started putting things in boxes and then came here and like I had to find this mic in a box. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
It's pretty recent. That's why my background's different.
Yeah.
But one thing that's funny when I was coming home is that the only time I've ever been treated nicely for being in the military was in the U.S. I didn't know that it was still like this in the U.S. I used to live in America, but they used to always like really like be super excessively reverent of like the Marines and shit to the point where it was almost funny. So when I was boarding my flight, they were like, if you're active service military, and I would be for like 5 more days when I was leaving that tournament or whatever it is, 20 more days or whatever it was. They're like, yeah, you can just board first, and my seat got upgraded and stuff, and there were people like shaking your hand and shit at the terminal, which was like really funny because I was like a clerk, you know what I mean? I wasn't like fucking killing Osama.
You got that premium gas.
Yeah. So that shit was funny, but anyway, so we did have somebody here go to the Vegas tournament though that a lot of us weren't able to go to. So LD, if you can just give us like a couple quick points about Vegas, like how your team did, what the event was like I know it was like an old MLG, and like what games were exciting or whatever. What was the feel of the event?
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely old school. They did it right. You first walk in and you see like just a giant line of like 80 CRTs, 80 original Xboxes all set up. They had main stage looking nice. It just was done right. Like it was for the fans, by the fans. It was just pure passion. And it was probably some of the best Halo 2 I've ever seen or been a part of. Like at that level, at that caliber, like there's so many, new faces or old faces, some people 40 years old now still competing on main stage.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was just it was a dream come true seeing those old heads still playing. And as far as us placing, like we didn't place as well as we'd want to, but originally I had another team in mind, and then it kind of got scrapped, and then I had to just take some locals. I had bought the team pass already.
That's like the go-to default. Like, hey, don't got a team, get the locals.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like I'm gonna go to this tournament, hell or high water. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna be playing in it. Like I'm not gonna miss this opportunity to be part of this big ass 20 year anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna say if you guys ever saw like the John Wick movies or whatever, where there's like assassins all over the place, that's kind of like LD's locals. Like if you show up to a LAN, LD somehow knows like half of the people there, and they come over, which is really weird. I guess maybe it might be like only on the West Coast or whatever, but it seems like he's able to like just point at a random crowd of people, and his agents emerge to play classic Halo games, which is pretty cool.
14 heads just like show up to Vegas too, so
yeah.
The stuff
everybody's like, oh, those are the NorCal guys.
Yeah.
Let's not
hung out with
forget
the Canada guys and the Colorado guys.
Yeah.
the event where I showed up by myself. And I didn't have a fucking team, and all of a sudden I look over and this guy's like, "Is your name Zeke?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Are you Goat Man?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm one of fucking LD's boys. I'm one of the NorCal boys." I was like, "Great, we have a fucking team."
But no, it's crazy. So if you guys don't know what we're talking about, that was our last podcast. You'll see, it'll say like PAX, and it's got Goat Man. He won with no team. because
Yeah, I said it by myself.
LD somehow managed to deploy his agent to
Deploy one of his minions.
cassette future.
yeah.
Chris
But-
came to Vegas too. He was our last minute pickup.
Okay, yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that event looked like it was awesome. Like, I'm sure you were in the seats, right, when like Final Instinct was playing, the Oats Overnight team, and obviously like Xanada and those real ones.
Shout out Eli the Ninja.
Yeah.
all those guys deserve it.
Yeah.
You know,
The LVT team, obviously, with Stormy and stuff. Like they were there to win it. That was a really sick team. I was super happy too to see like the real ones guys playing. Both teams being real ones teams after defeating what was it, Final Instinct, right, in like the semis to get to the grand. So that was cool. It was like the passing of the torch, where it would all be, you know, people who just stayed on the game after. Kind of bittersweet to see Final Instinct go down, but what a fucking series, right? That was sick. You were in the audience for that one, LD?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was insanely hype. You know, everybody was bursting with energy, like watching that series.
With Puckett on the commentary,
and
man.
too.
Straight up.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
Marty
I
O'Donnell
got a
pushing
chance
it
to
over
talk to
100K. Yeah.
Golden Boy, and Golden Boy was just having a blast.
Yeah.
Like talking about how this is esports, this is what it needs to be.
I'm really annoyed. They had like I don't know if they deliberately didn't read it because it was like kind of flamey, but I sent they had like a donation reading hour because Lethal was on the desk. If you guys don't know, Lethal was a Halo. I think he was a Halo commentator, and he became a Quake commentator later. And I sent a donation.
Had to play against him on CE.
Yeah, and I sent a donation that said like, "Hey Lethal, it's awesome that you were able to break away from QPL to make it to this Halo event." Oh wait, and yeah, because the QPL got shut down last year, and I was hoping they would read it, but no, it never got out. But no, that was a sick event though. I loved watching that one. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it there, but damn, were there ever some good games there. While I was like sitting on my MacBook waiting for my shit to show up. Okay, so and we have another event to talk about though, where we got Blake the Strafe, who's here, and yeah, you did an FFA recently at Free Play Florida.
You wanna call it that? Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just talk about that a little bit. So how did you hear about there being a free for all Halo 2 event?
This guy, Zeke and Rep both talked to me about it. They sent me a link, and I called up Goat, and I was like, "Hey man, like, blah blah blah." And he's like, "You gonna go to this thing?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" So just it was I googled it. I looked on my schedule. I was like, it was weird because I had a shift that day, but I opened like the day before. Long story short, my coworker likes to open, and they don't like closing, so I was able to switch the days, get the time necessary to go down. Plus, I'm out of my this is a side note for those of you that don't know, I moved to Florida recently, and if you know me, you know that I'm big in the cannabis game. And I got down here and landed myself a job at a dispensary, and then within 3 months got an assistant manager position at the third highest volume retail shop in the state. So I'm working there right now, but for 90 days after that promotion, couldn't take any time off, couldn't do anything because of the probationary period, and it's a management role.
Yeah,
it's required by it
for sure. Yeah,
but like literally 4 days or maybe 5 days after the 90-day probationary period was over, the event was taking place. So I was like, fucking perfect timing. So switched my schedules, looked up a hotel, looked up the drive time, and most importantly, I looked up the fucking settings. And I reached out to the TO, and the information on or was it Smash GG or Start GG?
Start.gg used to be Smash GG. People use the terms interchangeably.
For sure. I didn't want to sound like an idiot. But so I look up everything online. It's just saying like BR Start, Magnums, and there's not much else like listed in terms of details. It said map standard weapons on map. I'm like, fuck, swords on map, fucking, plasma starts on midship, all this shit. So I reach out and I email the TO. I'm like, hey, what can I bring my own controller? Can I do X, Y, and Z? Like, can we click human for the settings and all this stuff? And from what they were telling me, it was going to be an 8-man FFA. They're like, oh, depending on how many people show up, we're going to have it set up as 8-man brackets, top 4 advance into the next round. The other ones go down to losers bracket. And we had enough people to do it, but they decided, I think because of equipment constraints, that they were going to make it a 4-man FFA instead of an 8-man FFA. Yeah, Zach already knows the balance on that shit.
Yeah.
My first match
Very
at
cutthroat.
H2 Vegas free for all was a 5-man, and it was it was half the match was just me walking around looking for them.
Yeah, it's a
very
nightmare.
cutthroat.
Yeah.
Very cutthroat.
I'll
And
get
we
into the
finally-
flow about that,
yeah.
but anyway. But yeah, it plays a lot different than 8-man, and for those of you that are like really nerdy into FFA, like
I
the
know.
difference between a low lobby and
It's
a high lobby.
terrible.
But it didn't discourage me because I spent like as soon as I learned about the tournament, I went out and I bought a 360 controller and I started practicing everything like Rep was talking about earlier, changing my FOV down, all this other stuff. I didn't know this. Shout out to Rook, but he showed me that like your FOV when you increase it on MCC, your reticle gets bigger and it'll give you like false red and false headshot accuracy because it doesn't scale. So ever since I put it down to 78 FOV, I was telling Goat about this, but my shot has never been better in terms of hit reg. I feel like I can actually visibly see the bullets a lot better compared to the big icon and all that. It's nerdy, I know, but especially in close range, you can really tell on those things.
I'm actually gonna have to try that out, Blake, because I actually play on MCC. I actually play on 120 FOV. So
I used to too. I used to for the whole time.
So it's like a massive
Yep.
difference, going from 120 to 78.
On Halo 2,
I'd
on Halo
recommend
2, it really matters.
everybody should do it. Yeah,
I've
everybody
been
should
playing
do
on
it.
78 on everything now because of it.
Yeah, it's
It's
and to be honest,
Well,
like
Infinite is the only one that actually has like your reticle scale to your FOV.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cart does it too. So if you play Cart, you can do the wider FOV with a smaller thing. But
Oh, 3-for-3.
like, yeah, right. But the
Halo
clip that Rook has put on there and
Studios.
stuff. Oh yeah, Halo Studios now, bro.
Right.
But from what Rook
go
put
Halo.
some pretty cool clips with the scaled FOV, and as like cool as it is, it just doesn't look like Halo either. It looks like a whole different like emulated version of it. So just something about that 78 FOV, and this is something Goatman told me a long time ago. It's like even though you don't have the wide FOV, your game sense, you're gonna know where to look. You don't need all that extra space and stuff on the screen. But another big thing I noticed is that the frame rate differential. So on MCC, if you can only go down to 60 frames. It doesn't let you go down to 30 unless you like change your hardware physically to only allow it, which is not going to sync well because it's still rendering in 60, I'm sure. But I did everything that I could in order to emulate the closest thing to 360.
To a shittier version of the game.
Yeah.
Bro, but like
Downgrade the hell out of it on 2006.
Well, I'll tell you this, man. Like the 360 controller, something about it, just like the higher pronounced buttons compared to like my Elite controller and all that, it's just so much better for not fat thumbing things. And like you can really feel the grooves of the buttons for smooth BXRs and all, and like reloads, and it's just so much better. But the big thing that I learned about Zach, and what I really learned about Classic and Halo and learned a lot of respect for, is that there's a natural dead zone in these old school controllers of like 10 to 15%, I think it is.
Yep.
And Zach would know about this. If you know the terminology, please help me out here because I always draw a blank. But there's a plus axis and an X axis on the 360 controller, and in between each station, it's like a big dead zone that does not register like fine-tune diagonal from so what I've noticed about Zach though is you play on Legacy, so you have 2 sticks aiming, and your aim is fucking incredible. Like because you've got those
I play
2
southpaw sticks.
Yeah,
I'm never taking my thumb off of aim.
Right. So in like when you're just using 1 joystick versus 2 on Classic, you have such a smoother like blend. Like I've noticed in your gameplay too, your aim is so much smoother than people. I think because of the dead zone, you're using 2 inputs. Like I was telling Goat, it's like an Etch-a-Sketch rather than just using 1 at a time. You can, make it like curve it a lot better. But that's just one cool thing that I noticed. I thought you guys would like to nerd out on.
Yeah,
but
I was going to ask, are there any more specifics of like how it sort of fucked up your settings? Like, do you play like bumper jumper or anything? Do you play like weird rebound controls?
If you've ever watched an old Halo Dickheads podcast, Bo, Goat, and I go into like our weird ass controllers.
Well, it's been a while since then. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
because if you play
the double spider claw already.
If you play like close to default, right? Switching back to a 360 controller probably isn't the biggest deal. But if you play like something really cracked out with a lot of rebound buttons or a lot of paddles and shit.
Yeah, it was and that's if you watch the little video that I posted. I still think I have my little improvement notes here right here. So I went through and I knew all of the things that I was going to be weak on. Like I don't jump clawing. I jump with my back. Like I'll go over my binds just so you understand real quick. Bottom right paddle jump, top left paddle reload, and then bottom left is Y for like lightning snipes and shit.
Yep.
So functionally, I still claw a lot on my YYs, but a lot of my jump and my stuff that requires me to combat, it's all on my back paddles.
Okay.
So I had to jump in and I had to relearn claw and relearn how to Gandhi hop with claw and shoot with claw while Gandhi hopping. Because conventionally I'm always like this with just the thumb on the regular position with the paddles. But within, I'd say about 2 to 3 days, I was able to just dial it. It wasn't too crazy. I was doing about 100, 200 kills a day, practicing my ass off with the list. And this list, I'll give you here. Check this out. So like 50 BXR, if not BXR BL3 combos, which is like BXR crouch melee. Super important for Halo 2. I'm sure you guys all know. 50 kills claw while Gandhi hopping, 50 double shots with claw, 10 jumping double shots, 50 walling, running into the wall kills, and 25 nade shots. And doing those and having that constantly is like a tick for every time I practice was like really huge for my muscle memory development.
Right on.
And another one on here is VOD study. This was something that I don't think anybody else did except for me, but I went to the old LVT Halo free for all day and I watched all of the new strats and the new things that everybody's using currently to have as best of an arsenal as I could. Now, when it came to the tournament, I get there and like I run up to the TO, like I was saying earlier. First thing I did, like I obviously looked around a little bit because the tournament didn't start for a few hours.
So just to back you up slightly, like convention center, it was like a pinball and fighting game kind of convention, as I understand it.
Yeah, there was a lot of tournaments going on. Fighting tournament, pinball tournament, Halo tournament, Tetris tournament, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle tournament, but the venue was very arcade based. Like you go out on the main floor, they had Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 on original hardware. They had the voice actors there doing Q&As. They signed the original hardware and shit. There's all these if you watch the video, you can see there's like old Macintoshes running Oregon Trail and like fucking Genesis, everything. Like literally everything.
Well, it was super cool because I found that tournament on star.gg and I looked it up and I started looking into it. And it wasn't just like your one-off like LAN center league.
No.
It was a fully blown major game expo in Florida with some actual good leagues. Like the guy that was hosting the tournament actually donates and raised like $100,000 for a children's hospital. So it wasn't just like they got a random person.
Gamers on the Edge is the shout out, by the way. Thanks to them. They sponsored the whole event, not just Halo. Like these guys did everything there. Right. This Free Play Florida was held together by these guys. And
that's sick.
If you're really into helping people and all that, like, they do a lot of good work for what they do. But they are also probably the coolest classic game enthusiast I've ever seen in terms of somebody that puts on specifically classic gaming events. Now, in terms of tournament regulations, Halo 2 is so niche and nerdy. Like they did their best that they could for the equipment. You could tell, like, they're using Mad Catz controllers, which is why I bought my own and brought it. So, like, you go up and the controllers are see-through with, like, blue LED lights and shit on them. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? But I'll tell you this. When you go up, I went and shook the guy's hand. He's an awesome guy. He loves Halo himself so much that he just did that on his own accord. Like, he wasn't instructed to do that. He, as a passion project, wanted to throw a little Halo 2 thing just for him. And it was really cool to hang out with him because he was letting me stream it on Twitch, doing reactions, commentary. If you guys watched the live stream, I mean, I had a lot of fucking fun, man. Like it was like only 16 to 20 people hanging out. Half of them were decent. The other half were like, oh man, I haven't played this game in 8 years. Like, so it was, and there was like a fucking 8-year-old there too. So it was all walks of life here. Yeah, he was in the first round with me. I'll go into detail on that. That was dude, I felt so bad, but like money's on the line, bro. Like, it was fucking, there's no mercy, bro. I was like, well, I'm about to teach you a really good lesson in life, buddy. But
must be this tall to ride this ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we all show up, and I'm watching everybody as I show up to gauge out the competition. And there's like 4, maybe 5 people that have like a decent shot, and there was one guy there that was consistently hitting 4s and 5s. So I was like, okay, this guy, I know he's probably going to be like somebody to watch out for. And as soon as we all like get around, I'm watching everybody, and they start announcing the rules, and I already knew going in because I talked to him earlier, but I'll give you the rules. He sat down. He's like, first to 20 kills, 7-minute rounds. Like, if it doesn't go to 20 kills, whoever has the most. Now, there was 16 players, each 4v4. One person from each round would advance to the grand finals for the FFA. There wasn't even a loser's bracket.
Okay.
So everybody at grands, though, there was 4 total matches after you went to grands, and each match would accumulate your score. And whoever had the most kills at the end of 4 rounds.
So it's almost like how they're doing like the PUBG tournaments, like really
Yeah.
early on. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That actually kind of
kill
makes
rate kinda
sense.
deal.
That kind of makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so the FFA, if it was 8-player, top 4 advanced to grand finals would make sense, but we just didn't. They just didn't have that format.
Okay.
So they did some other thing
yeah.
that was like kill based, which was fine.
Yeah.
But going in first round, fuck, dude, I felt so bad. Goat and I were talking about this. It was MIDI for the first round for my grand final qualification bracket round, and I immediately just go fucking from bottom base and blue to top P2. Nobody's going there. I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be fucking easy. So I get on top map and I start shooting people, maybe pick up a kill on my way up and grab sword. And these poor people I went against they had no awareness. Like it was a fucking steamroll. It was 20. The next person had 2 kills. So it was quick. It was like a 3 to 4 minute round at most. If there was more people on the map, I probably could have finished it in like a minute 20, knowing how I play CBG and shit. But that was fine. And then over the next 3 rounds, I start watching every single player that's going to win that round to get an idea of how they play, what they do. And one guy was like good. He was in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles competition before, so he's like a competitive gamer, so he had a good game sense to him. Not the greatest shot, but a good game sense. The other guy, he was really fucking nade happy. This guy, like, he threw more nades than he shot bullets, but because it was MIDI and things, he was just like sticking people and like, you know, trying to third party with nades instead of BRing, like makes sense.
And shit.
Right. So he was very nade happy. And then the last guy, that was that guy that I mentioned earlier that had the steady shot during the warm-ups. And he apparently has won every single tournament since 2016. I didn't know that. Didn't know his gamer tag. He signed up as like his regular name. He didn't even have a gamer tag that I could look up. So I scouted every single person that signed up on Bracket and looked them up on WarGG and everything. And most of the people there were like, that I could find were like 1.2 to 1.5 KD. So I was like, that's not fucking whatever. But so we get in and we get into the first map of grand finals was Lockout. And what I noticed on the first game that really threw me off was that the monitors that they were using were like kiosk monitors for a Wendy's. Like they weren't like they fucking they're 1080 or whatever.
Right.
But I'm telling you, like, I played on 60 frames. I've played on 30 frames. I went up, and if you guys watch in the video, I pick up a controller and hit like a few double shots and an RRBX in the video.
That's
and
nice.
like, yeah, that was good 30 frames on a CRT. That felt smooth. This felt like I was like my first round. I knew how I had to dial my movement and everything. The delay for the monitor, not the controller, not the Xbox, but the delay on the monitor, it felt as delayed as if you played MCC campaign co-op and you were off host. That's
very bad input lag. Very bad input lag.
That's how like, but like because I've done Lasso, but because I've done Lasso and everything with my friend Nick and everything, like I knew how to dial that, right? Like even though it wasn't, I didn't practice that delay or whatever, like I've been in situations in Halo where I can be like, okay, I just need to adjust my shot and do all this. But fuck, dude, Gandhi hop shooting, like aiming while jumping on that delay is fucked. Like it was my like side to side shot, whatever, like totally fine. I can match their strafe and then Gandhi hop out and like kind of like get it. But if I'm like down a shot and I have to double jump in a fight, like fuck, dude, like it was this, like I'd win, but like it felt like I was aiming with fucking levers, man. It did not feel like smooth at all. And, like, them shooting me didn't feel smooth, so it's just like a bunch of guys like fucking slipping and sliding on ice, fighting each other in these BR fights.
No, yeah, but boys, I don't mean to cut off Blake. I actually gotta hop off here and book a flight. But yeah,
Thanks
before I
for
hop off here,
Yeah.
yeah, man, I just wanted to say massive shout out, to the whole org, whole Zodiac. Like I appreciate, Goat Rep, LD, for teaming with me at Worlds. It's like the one thing that I've said to them as well as everyone is just like going into Worlds and just like with the time that we had, I couldn't have asked for a better team. And most importantly, shout out to our many sponsor people, reaching for, most importantly, creating these fucking badass jerseys. Out of 20 years that I've been playing Halo, these are probably the sickest jerseys that I've ever worn on my back, and represented it. So massive shout out to Reaching, massive shout out to Blake for the donation to help us get these jerseys made, as well as Hyena. And yeah, man, Code Zodiac, baby. I mean, this is not the last time that you're gonna see us. I mean, this organization definitely has come a long way, and definitely big things for the future for sure. This is not the last that you're gonna see all of us. Like all of us will probably be back at Worlds next year. You know what I mean? Whether we team together or not, but this is not gonna be the last time you see our faces for sure.
Cool. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
I appreciate all you guys, man. Boys. Everyone have a safe night.
Have a good night, dude.
Cool.
Right.
So
did I hear my name? What happened?
Yeah. So you were saying that like super delayed Wendy's monitor for the finals. You were saying that like your side to side aiming wasn't too bad, but the lasso off host level input delay made Gandhi hopping impossible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was able to do it, but it was so difficult. And like, if you guys watch my gameplay on MCC, like the difference between like an elite controller on a 160 frame PC with like super smooth reticle control on modern aiming and all that. So it was a big change of pace with the delay. But I don't think that it was just an annoyance. It wasn't like something that cost me the game. What really did cost me the game, I think, was just the spawn cycle of the lack of line of sight on things like on fucking Lockout and Warlock, especially. Like being able to third party people is a lot harder when there's only 4 people in the map. It's like, and they had like, I think like a 7 or fucking 5 second spawn respawn too. So like it was really hard to really.
But like sometimes me and Rep will like warm up, and when we warm up with like 4 people or less, we don't call it free for all. We call it cutthroat. There's actually a name. We don't call it free for all. We call it, we always say it, Rep. We always call it cutthroat. Like we're playing cutthroat, because all you do is you wait for 2 other people to get into a fight, and then you just come in like a little vulture and try to clean up like a one-shotter. And that's not really how you play free for all. Free for all should be chaotic. Free for all should be you run around a corner, there's a guy one shot, you clean him up. Maybe you're one shot, you get cleaned up. There's a lot of movement. Every direction you look on the map, there should be something going on. It shouldn't be there's nothing going on and there's a gunfight off in the corner.
Half of the map.
So there's actually,
and it completely ruins the flow and the pace of the game.
Yeah, there's and that's why I say there's actually skill involved to that level of playing. Being that ratty and being that patient and knowing where to sit to wait for people. There's actually some.
So that's what I was going to mention, because of how slow the map was in terms of how dead it was.
Let me say this. I was going to say it really quick is when you're dealing with free-for-all, you're dealing with constantly needing to initiate the fight. But when you're dealing with cutthroat, you constantly don't want to be the first person in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
So like you want to wait. You don't want to be the first person to initiate a gunfight when you're playing with that little people. But the more people you play with, it actually counterbalances, and you actually want to initiate every gunfight, because if you don't, you're going to start falling back in kills.
There was another thing we talked about, Goat, was that sometimes you want to hold a position because you can get more kills that way. Like, for instance, P2, window, all of these power positions that give you a lot of angles. And what sucked is I didn't feel at one time during that cutthroat that was a viable strategy, just because of the lack of, like on Lockout, the lack of activity and the lack of available angles. Like they'd be fighting in the library and I'd be on like S2. I'm like, well, fuck, let me try to jump out, throw a fucking nade in there or something to try to get something going. But like, then they would, like, while I'm chasing them, they're running out to back BR3 to recharge, and now like the whole fight is reset. So it was very cat and mousey. But I'll tell you that I did not lose a single 1v1 BR fight that whole tournament. There wasn't one instance where I was like, oh fuck, he got me. It was like, damn, like I fucking still need 2 shots on me, like every single fight. And I think a lot of it had to do with the lack of experience with people, with me jumping in the Gandhi hop. Even as fucked up as it was, everybody was struggling, but I had that lasso experience to be able to like fucking force that bitch onto their head, you know?
Yeah.
But the first game, it started off, I spawned blue, and I started pushing on elbow because there's a guy that spawned elbow who's running to S1. And it was the number 1 seed guy. And I got like first 2 on him, and he like tries to run back to that little pillar on the corner. I was like, oh, don't. I said this out loud because I fuck with people on that. But I was like, oh, don't be scared. I know I'm real scary. And I jump out and fucking to him. He doesn't get 1 shot on me, and I just like book it to snipe, get the sniper. The other guy's coming up with sword. I fucking snipe him as he's coming from bottom mid, pick up the sword. Now I've got S2 with sniper and sword, and I'm like, fuck, I need to get to BR3. That's next step right now. So I'm up on there, and guy throws a nade from top blue. I'm getting shot from BR3, and my shields go down. And I peek out, and I snipe BR3. And this was my biggest mistake, is I underestimated my opponent because I did not think that they would be smart enough to know the shortcut from sniper 1 elbow position on the ledge up to snipe 2 flat. And I was no shields reloading, and I was stepped back right on the ramp that leads up to S3, the first part of the ramp on the little flat part right there, to cover myself from BR3. And he jumped up and got me when I was no shields, and I lost both power weapons. From there, like I was in the lead by like 5 or 6, and it got all the way up to like 15, and it was just a fucking clusterfuck of people dying and jumping on the power weapons and getting grenaded and dying and trading the power weapon. And like one guy would get 1 sword kill, and then there'd be like 2 grenades from everybody else, and then those 2 guys would come in, and then like fucking 1 guy would remain after that, and then like the power weapons would be in their hands, but then they'd get naded. And it was, lockout was very, it was I felt like with 8 people it would have been decent, but with 4 people it was just way too slow. But that game he had 20, I think I had like 17, and then it was like 15-12 for the other 2. Then we went on to game 2, and game 2 I believe was midship, and that game I did a lot better, and I got like I think 18 but way less deaths because I started understanding on midship, like Goat was talking about, the top middle position. Like I could get into fights a lot easier by reasserting myself on the top middle instead of just P2 or just the window. So top middle gave me in Cutthroat a lot faster access to those third parties, if that makes sense. So on midship, I was able to do really well, but the grenades from that guy and this guy was playing Suicide Sticky Collection, right? So he would come up, and his MO was like, if I'm getting close to you and you like, you're gonna die with me if you have sword. If not, I'm still gonna nade spam you, because he didn't have the dexterity to handle his BR. All of his thing was like melees and nades. He'd go in and just like damage and try to stick you. That was his MO. So I started using that against him and like strafing instead of using the sword. That helped a little bit, but I felt like a lot of the times, because of the slaying, and I'd be on one spot and I'd kill a guy, that guy would respawn, the other guy would be over here, and then the first player seed would spawn close to them, if that makes sense. And he would have faster access to that third party than I would, because I'd be on the opposite side of the map where they just died. So I started running up to like top mid, P2, using carbine, whatever I could to get up there quick. But I think that one was like 18-20 on that one. And then the last 2 guys did really bad on midship. They had fucking, I think like 6 and 8, something really low. And it clicked in my head right there that, so like, okay, by the way, whoever got last place gets map pick, right? So because I never got last place on any of the heats, they just gave me last map pick. And I'll tell you guys in a second how I strategically use that. But game 3 Warlock, bro, like I was in my element on that game playing portals. And like I started learning that if I played floor portals, that I would be able to third party a lot more quick. But there was some points where it's like, fuck, they're going to spawn over here. I got to dip through bottom middle or some weird shit in order to set myself up for the proper angle. And on top of that, like camo's a big factor in that too, because everybody's playing Cutthroat and Ratty. I was timing that at the same time every 45 to, 105 or whatever. And that was the biggest element of that game that I think helped me the most, was because of my knowledge of the camo spawn. Like all the other guys, like after I got it 2 or 3 times in a row, they started going for it, and I started baiting it because they became more aware of it. And everybody that knows Warlock, like top mid with grenades, like you're fucked. Don't ever try to like hold top middle like with camo. Like you want to put yourself in a fucking med pack or on a portal or something. And it's on the video, but that map came down to a 1919 1v1 BR fight, and it was so nice. Like I fucking third party one guy. He's also trying to third party him from the other guy. So it's just like me and him, like after I get that first kill, and I get like reaction, faster first shot, and he goes behind. I was transitioning from green ramp to I think bottom middle, because they were in the shotgun kind of area by portal, and they backed up and they were behind there, and that's where him and I started the first BR fight. Was he was underneath the ramp coming in, not on the portal side but on the bottom middle side to start the engagement with me. And I got 2 on him right there, and he backs up. He got scared. So he backs up during the BR fight and tries to head glitch me from the stair side. And my response is I Gandhi hop to get the angle on his head more. And he freaks out and tries to do it back instead of going to cover, and it costed him that BR fight. And that gave me the 2019 victory. And again, these guys were on the struggle bus on Warlock for the last 2 guys. So like mathematically, this was the shitty part, is that this guy, I had to get 14 kills more than him in order for it to be like guaranteed first. And I was like, fuck, that fucking happened. Because he had just slayed out those worst players. Like I didn't have, like, I want to say
sword. The sword's what cost you on that lockout game, because I was watching. That guy just had that sword.
He had it
camping up top of the S3, and you couldn't get it.
Couldn't get it. Yeah. Like I was trying to time it so that we all pushed the sword together, and like those other 2 guys just like couldn't like do any damage to the guy. Like I BXR'd this guy, I got him to no shields. I was hoping like, okay, the guy that's gonna third party this is gonna kill him, and then I can go kill the worst player for the sword, or at least like I just didn't want it in the hands of the number 1 seed guy. But they didn't have that coordination, just wasn't there. And so that was lockout. Warlock was really good, I felt, but statistically, I was looking at the Excel sheet, and I was like, okay, this guy is close to me, kind of. If he gets at least 14 kills, then my second place would be in jeopardy. So I was like, I'm gonna pick his worst map that he performed on in order to keep that point differential large. So that's why I picked midship again for the last map.
Okay.
And even though I only got, I think, 17 kills that game, they only got like 6 or 7 again. So it consolidated and gave me that guaranteed second place. So statistically, even though I couldn't get the first place, I did everything that I could with the resources that I had to guarantee not only podium, but best potential podium.
Yeah. No, that's for real. I don't know how much like other, BR games you played. I know that you're big on the Warzone shit, obviously, and have been for several years. But that was like a big element of strategy in like the very early like heat structure of like H1Z1 and like PUBG and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Is like, it is now mathematically impossible for me to win, but I can lock in third place by doing X and Y and Z and stay in the. So you did that for second. That's really good.
No. And there's, I felt like kind of like, man, I could have done a lot better on my lockout game, because I felt like it's like we were talking about earlier, feeling people out on how they're going to play, learning that me initiating a third party on the best player wasn't going to guarantee a death from him by the third party. Was like, I was like, oh, fuck, what do I do now? Like, it's going to always be a 1v1, and he has power weapons. I'm like, fuck. So it was like, that was the biggest struggle of Warlock for me, was trying to recoup that. Now, if it was fucking Plasminade starts, on midship with fucking sword, maybe I could have fucking done something a little different. But
it was super entertaining to watch. I was watching the entire series, and I mean, it was pretty. I mean, for it being cutthroat, it was pretty sweaty. It was entertaining to watch, I will say that. And I'm actually kind of impressed with the prize pool. $300 prize pool for a Halo 2 FFA. That's pretty good. I mean, that's like on HCS levels. Like,
yeah.
They did a knockdown $300. Just pretty good.
Yeah, and the funniest thing about that is like the 4th place guy didn't know he got payout, so he was hella bummed when he lost. And they're like, "All right, 4th place, coming up, you get $30." He's like, "What? oh shit, cool. And he went up and got it. He was like, yeah, he was all happy about it.
Oh, the goat man.
Yeah.
Oh shit, we got
Oh, the goat man.
Oh no, I
We all
lost.
like
Oh wait, I'm in
shook
the
hands, we
money.
all like,
Yeah.
oh, no. Yeah. He's like, oh shit, I can go buy a fucking video game over here if I want. Right?
Yeah.
So we all shook hands. It was all great sportsmanship. There was no like fucking midnight shit talking nerds there or anything like that. Go
Yeah, the
figure.
group photo was pretty sweet. I
Yeah,
saw
yeah,
that you guys were all-
that's an awesome
every one of
photo
you guys
where,
had
yeah.
a smile on your face. Yeah.
Yeah, like everybody knew that we were all like good and like we did a fucking fun ass tournament, as limited as it was on hardware and all that. Like obviously smootherness wouldn't have saved me on some of the decision making for like that first game, but it would have been nice to like really get some nice like fucking clips on some smooth ass aim. And this is what Goat and I were talking about the other day, is that I think for like classic Halo tournaments, that Project Cartographer is probably going to be the best thing for classic Halo 2 online. One, because of the lack of hackers compared to MCC, but also the hit registration is better. The scaling of things, like we were talking about earlier, is better. Everything's just better functionally on that game for tournament
Yeah,
requirements.
you can still clamp the game down and have it function a lot more like the original version of Halo 2 as well.
Compared to MCC, like it's fucking way better. But there is something to still be said about like classic, as long as it's done with the right equipment and you label it as like an actual classic setup with MLG rulings and things. Like that's obviously Kino and it's great, but there's so much like hardware now. We're not limited by these natural 10 to 15% dead zones. So to see like a true player skill ceiling, to take that out, like you can really notice who has like the threading on a good BR, or who has the best sniper and all these things, because you can really tune the brain to the screen a lot more accurately. So I'd love to see that, especially for like LAN tournaments possibly too, if they don't have like classic consoles and CRTs, but they do have PCs for classic, like Cart, I think would be a much better option.
I know we kind of touched about that last time we talked, Blake, but like I said, and I know that like I guess the purists and us MCC kids, there's always gonna be like bumping heads, because they're going to look at it and be like, oh, you need the tube TV. You need the old school Japanese S-type controller. You need the fucking X wiring and whatever, and you need to use an OG Xbox and an OG disc that was made from 2006 or whatever, right? Like, or 2004, whatever the fucking case is. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of the people playing the game now, I guess in a population, are playing more on MCC. There's a very niche group of people who still play on OG, like completely OG tube TV, OG Xbox, everything. And by like throwing events that are completely OG, you're kind of like bottlenecking your competition, because the vast majority of people still playing the game don't have access to tube TV, don't have an OG Xbox, don't play on all that stuff. And so like by kind of like you'll bring more of the community together by at least having a platform that everyone can play on, because there's a lot of kids who play Halo 2 now who I know that play Bumper Jumper. Mm-hmm. There is no Bumper Jumper in Halo 2.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
What do you need? A more modern. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly the sticks, because I've played all different control setups. It's mostly the sticks that you notice going back. It's mostly the sticks, how they're not as precise. That's like the big problem.
Yeah. Like look at myself. I play Southpaw Boxer Claw. That doesn't exist on Halo 2 on OG. Like, what am I going to do? Well, now you get to have good double shots or good BXR, but you can have both. So it hinders. It hinders everybody who's not like.
I think that's kind of like misguided, because at a certain point you could argue that is the game, right? Like the difficulty of the controls is the game. The issue is the skill differentiation in an imprecise stick. That's the thing. Like if you literally can't aim at something, that is a problem. Having custom forcing everybody to play with like the same controls is not necessarily lowering the skill ceiling. It's just saying that like the controls have to be how they are, because this is the thing in a lot of other fighting games. The controls have to be how they are, right? You can't change them. That's considered part of the skill ceiling. But in precision, in like a stick or in a button or something like that, like having actual imprecision is something that must be fixed.
That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
But like you said, it does get into dead zones. Like I play no dead zones. What
Yes.
am I gonna do? Like you can basically breathe on my control stick and it'll fucking turn. I mean, if anybody's ever seen me stream when I did stream, my fucking if I drop my controller, it would just glide away.
Yep.
You know, like and now like you're going from like basically barely even touching your thumbstick to get a precision aim to like having to yank that thing just to get it to move. It's like night and day.
Yeah.
It completely. And so everybody who's still used to that, you know.
Yes.
And the reality is,
Yeah.
more people have became pros on Halo Infinite than any other Halo game. There's more pros that came from Halo Infinite than even Halo 5, and all these newer games have newer features that all these new professional players are used to. I mean, it just doesn't make sense logically going backwards when a lot of your core hardcore competitive player base that's playing Halo Infinite, it's playing Halo 5, that are playing all these new modern games, or even playing Halo 3 to this day.
I gotta,
you know, it would be.
Yeah, I gotta make a point after this. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard for them to go backwards in time when all these features and controls, modern things are on MCC.
Yeah.
Like I'm an MCC guy, so.
Well,
I mean, like, you know, even for me, like,
Halo 5 has massive heavy aim, so and then Halo Infinite also has a very terrible aim system compared to MCC and just general things. But I think that's just
we're talking about mechanic options though, having the mechanics, having the options to change your mechanics and not be limited to just like you want to play boxer or you want to play default.
Yeah.
You know, like
they should have cart customability. I think that's the future.
Why can't they? You know, why can't that be added? Like if that got added, it would bring so many more people into it that literally just don't even have a setting to even play.
Well, even beyond that, the future titles of Halo in the future, like I'm not even, let's just say classic is classic. They have those things. We have all these things. Obviously, like if you want to play classic on classic, that's going to be a classic tournament. But for future gaming in the Halo franchise, the way that aiming works and the way that modern hardware works, this next Halo game, they can't have this fucking Halo Infinite weird translation of mouse and keyboard to joystick like setup. They need to use not the classic, but the modern control scheme that's in Halo MCC. That needs to be the same, or in CART, that synchronization of the controller with the fine-tune aiming that doesn't exist in Halo Infinite, that needs to stop. Because what we have a problem with right now, and what we have to learn, unfortunately, for the second time, is that these companies are pulling a Halo Reach. They're adding, like, let's take Reach as Bloom, for instance. There's all of these non-player functions that are augmenting aim, and it's not just in Halo. It's also in Call of Duty right now. I don't know if you guys are super familiar with Black Ops, but they've added, like, and there's this big blow up on Twitter. One of the game devs came out and said, I'm personally not a fan of bunny hopping, so we've added gun sway and aim idle sway, and like it'll augment your aim up to 20% not using your inputs, aiming, like if you jump or if you like move, which has never existed in a COD title before. And because of that, it's crushing the franchise, just like how the Bloom did for Halo Reach. So for Halo, like, you don't need to go back to class controls. We don't need to go back to like Xbox 360 dead zones. What we need is like, we want Halo MCC's aim scheme where what I do is what happens on the screen. Like if I overcorrect, it needs to overcorrect. If I'm on point, it needs to be on point. If you know what I mean? Like it needs to be a true 1-to-1, which is never going to be perfect, but with the way that they have things set up and programmed, it's terrible. It feels clunky. Like Halo 5 has heavy aim, and so does Infinite. It's just
MCC's aim feels perfect. I'm gonna be honest. It's MC. What I like about MCC's aim, it's not like Cartographer. It's not convoluted and confusing. It's very simple. The curve.
You don't have to compensate.
Very simple.
You don't have to compensate for anything.
No.
Well, you can program all that on CART. You can make like different estimates.
Yeah, you could, but it's not there.
No,
it is.
You know, it's like saying like, oh, we're all playing baseball, but hey, Goat, I know you're left-handed. You need a left-handed baseball glove.
Yeah.
All we have is right-handed gloves. So learn how to fucking catch right-handed, or you're fucked. Have a nice day. You know, like, and so for somebody like me, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you know, I can't just play left-handed. No, it's right-handed only. It's classic baseball. You know what I'm saying?
If Halo Studios is listening to this, which I know they are, like you're not going to get any better feedback from anybody. I mean, we're like the people in this podcast right now. Goat has over 1 million fucking kills. Zach can fucking build an Xbox if you give him a silicon fucking chip. Like you give like some wafers, like and some fucking hardware. Rep knows like every goddamn spawn and like he knows every fucking spawn cycle. Reach knows every weapon time. Like it's we know this game probably better than most people that are willing to talk about it in this fashion. Like a lot of people can't, like they know about it, but they don't know how to relay these things. It's like Halo Studios, like listen when we say like, give us the aim that's on like that, like let us have customizable controller schemes. We could put whatever we want on each button. It's not going to hurt anybody. And let us have our regular aim that is true to the aim that we're inputting, which you already have. You've already invented it. It's on Halo 4. You guys have done it. Like it's nothing new. Like you guys have done this. We're not reinventing the wheel here. Just go back to it.
Yeah.
But that's
why I think like throwing
Who
events.
knows how it's going to feel for the next one because it's
throwing
gonna be
events.
Oh, what
where,
exactly?
like,
I couldn't hear him. What did you say, Zach?
So we don't even know what they're going to do because it's going to be an entirely new engine.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean,
It could have its own flaws. It could have god tier aim, but like there could be some other.
Realistically, the next Halo game is going to be the laggiest game. We'll talk about it on a different podcast, but Unreal Engine is not in a very good place. But but you know, for a positive,
the Unreal Engine.
How about I like say something positive about that though? Most Unreal engines are backward and forward compatible for most things. Most of the aiming in MCC is handled by Unreal, as I understand it. So there's there theoretically is an ability to just, you know, copy and paste something and at least have that as a foundation to build off of. Maybe you have to change the names of a few things, but it should be an easy translation to make it feel like, you know, Halo 2 MCC aiming in an Unreal Engine Halo game. It shouldn't be too hard. It shouldn't be too hard. So that is actually a benefit of them switching engines.
Yeah, I think that's and the other thing, guys, you need a fucking VR. You need a battle royale to compete in today's world, man. Keep the arena, obviously, like COD does, but straight up, like you want to make some money. You want to get some microtransactions, like put on a fucking Halo ODST battle royale with like those kind of mechanics. Make it its own standalone. Fuck it. So you balance it out, so it's not all like hyper Y-axis or whatever people are worried about. Like, there's
don't make it. I'm not opposed to that.
Let's do Warzone. Like, last thing, Warzone 1 mechanics. You listening, Halo Studio? Everybody wants right now, and nobody's delivering. Bring back. You do Warzone 1 slide canceling with ODSTs and shit. You guys will take over the entire marketplace. I promise. Don't even need to pay me.
But if you're with Battle Royale, I hope it never becomes the main central focus of Halo, though. I hope it's always Arena first, then Battle Royale after. That's my only concern.
Yeah, it'll be like CDL and World Series of Warzone. Like World Series of Warzone has one event a year. It's for like $1 million fucking dollars, and that's it. You know, and it's like the CDL, you got majors just like you have Halo Infinite.
Right. And I'm not opposed to that. That's actually perfect because then that brings in more people, more crowd, more popular. You know, it's like.
Yeah,
but I think what Goat was gonna say. Because I know he probably maybe lost his subject, but I'm going to say what I think he's going to say is I don't want us to be going backwards in time with Halo. I want us to be going forward with time. And I want the competitive scene, HCS, I want it to be as accessible for newer players or players across all the other Halo games.
That's exactly what I was trying to say.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. We should be forward thinking. We should be forward moving. We shouldn't have to, like, you know, like even like look at Tetris. That shit is older, like way older than fucking Halo, and they have their own builds for Tetris that they sweat out on, you know, especially for tournaments. Because I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Tetris community, but they 1v1 each other, and it gets fucking like real nerdy in there, and they have special builds for that, you know, and they're not just like, oh, we got to play on Nintendo and fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, they have it all set up, you know, and I don't see why we can't either. And the thing is when you do it like that, you have the option of playing a modern style or a vintage style, but at least you have the option, and you're not bottlenecking it. Because when you create a niche within a niche, your competition becomes so small that, you know, what are you really a winner of? Your community? Like, are the people who play that, you know? You want to bring as many people in as possible. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say, make things more accessible for the vast, you know, majority of people. That way you have the biggest crowd. That way you could even feel even more proud when you hold a trophy up.
Halo 1, 2, and 3 had this unique thing about it that is gone nowadays but needs to come back. It's the ability for the average person to go up, pick up a controller, and figure the game out within a few minutes. not like, oh, hold L3 and hold R1 for 3 seconds to like Spartan charge and like do all this crazy shit. Melee grenade shoot, fundamentals, make it easy for people, and people will come. They're like too often now we have so many extra mechanics and so much extra stuff that it just kind of confuses people. The simpler it is, the better. Like, you gotta remember, most of these people
should be learned by doing.
Yeah, like a lot of these people that play games are kids, or they're like people that get off of work. Nobody's sitting around like we used to, like, like, doing the things like this. It's a whole different like culture. Everybody's new to gaming. It's not just like diehards playing it anymore. The average person plays a lot of video games compared to the past. And the more that we get into this weird, hyper polygonal fucking world, the less that people are going to be retained on your title. So you got to.
They make it less rewarding. They make modern games less rewarding to learn. I mean, you look at like Halo 4, like the game telling you where power weapons are coming up, or like Halo Infinite telling you when power weapons are coming up, and getting giant icons on your screen. But the reward of learning a game is to not know when the stuff comes up, so you learn when it comes up on your own, and you make those skills subconscious skills that you can grow upon versus something that's right out in front of you. And that's why I think a lot of people aren't sticking out with a lot of these new games, because they're just not fun.
Takes the wonder away from it.
Yeah.
So so I think that was a good podcast. Thanks again for Ferrari for making it here. Thanks LD for showing up. Blake, thank you for hitting Free Play Florida and representing, getting on the podium. Nice job. Obviously, Goatman and Rep, the eternal emissaries of Zodiac, and we'll be seeing a lot more of them in 2025. So thanks so much for watching.